How you doing? Welcome to the Eye Test, the show where we make you question what you see on a stat line with what you see with your eyes. And today we are joined by a special guest, Ahmadou Bayo. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Perfect.
Man, I was
It's
waiting
actually
for
pretty
you. I'm not
surprising.
even
Yeah.
gonna. I was waiting for him to fuck it up, man. I'm like, he been messing it up the whole time in pre-production. I'm about to kill him as soon as it starts. I'm not even gonna mention it to him, and then look at you. You just taking my fun away from me, Mark.
Hey, listen, man. Hey, man, I always gotta keep you on your toes, dog.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah, you got me today.
all right. And as always, we're with Shawn Redacted. So,
Dog, don't do me like once again, dog. You could just say it, dog. You know what I'm saying? You act like people
hey,
don't already know my last name from previous episodes. You know what I'm saying?
listen, man.
Yeah,
You
like
yelled at me
you
to
leaked
say
it
stop
already. The
saying your name.
information is leaked. The information is leaked already. I don't know why you trying to,
Listen, I apologize.
Nah,
I'm
you
just trying to
good.
I'm just trying to know which way to go. Tell me when to go, bro. Let me
Dog,
know.
you already went. Well, I don't know why you you act like if now if I don't say his last name, they won't know. Like they don't already have that shit on record, man.
All right. Well, anyway, man, Sean, how
Go
you
for it.
doing? Fellas, how you doing?
I'm um shoot, I'm good, man. Happy New Year to everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Same to you.
Uh Definitely, man. Had a good night last night. Just kicked it with the kids in the living room. Got the mattresses and shit out there. You know, got to watch some movies and stuff. Did a couple of video calls with my family members. Well, the ones that were actually up and willing to talk. I had to educate my niece and my sister musically, like I always do. You know, my sister want to listen to a bunch of trap shit. She want to listen to cats like Moneybag Yo and Black Youngster, and
Sound like a
then
good night.
but then she also, what I'm saying, doesn't she's also not like that educated because I'm like, yo, I guarantee you listen to drill, some drill shit. And she was like, drill, what's that? And I'm just like, oh my God. So then I'm telling her artists, she's like, yeah, I listen to them. I listen to them. I'm like, yeah, I thought so.
Okay.
But she did try to blame her what I consider to be bad musical taste. She blamed it on her previous relationships. So yeah, if y'all listening out there, if you an ex of my sister, this is your fault.
Hey, well, listen, man. and and Bio, how was your evening? How was your New Year's, man? How you bring it in?
New Year's is normal. Like we have a 10 p.m. curfew. Like we still in high school or something, so couldn't really go out or nothing. But linked up with some friends, did the normal, drank a little bit, shot some dice, listen to good music. It ain't really too much you could do because it is still a pandemic outside. But
Oh,
you know, at least we here. How about you?
yeah. Well, I chilled at home, with the family, held my daughter while the ball dropped, I guess. And after that, I laid her down for bed. Went outside, poured me a glass of some blended Canadian whiskey from the bottle that Sean hates, and and I
That shit is terrible, dog. Go
and I
ahead.
sparked up a Cohiba, and it just smoked and drank my whiskey outside while I watched fireworks from the neighborhood and listened to gunshots everywhere. So, like, what I mean,
Yeah,
it is what
so
it is.
but you know what
So,
I'm saying. I gotta bring it back real quick. You know what I'm saying, because we're not just gonna skate by what happened. You know what I'm saying? And then I even talk about you, Mark. I'm talking about bios. I'm like, just had a couple drinks, shot a little dice, the usual. You know what I'm saying? Shooting dice is just in the regular, it's in the cards every
Yeah,
night.
we,
Is that how
we
it goes?
yeah
Like,
we gamble. You gotta
okay,
yeah,
get
okay, I
get
just had to
together, gamble,
ask.
play
What I'm saying?
cards.
I wasn't gonna let you scoot by on that shit. I was like, oh,
Listen, that makes it exciting when there's money on the line. It makes it a little bit more exciting than just shooting for fun.
true,
yeah, you
true. I
don't.
mean, I can respect that. I'm a gambling man, so I ain't got shit to
Yeah,
say to
I
you.
mean, they play dice. You don't play spades. You don't do dominoes. Like, what's good with you? Like, you don't.
First off, why? See, he gonna try to play. See, Mark always trying to play somebody, man. See,
What?
talking
I'm
about
just
some I
trying to
don't play.
understand why
Now,
it was
now
so
all of a sudden
foreign
I
to
don't.
you.
Now all of a sudden I don't do none of this stuff. I don't play
I was just
spades.
trying to understand why
Hey,
dice
look,
was so foreign to you.
no,
Why it
it
seemed like a
wasn't
foreign
foreign to me.
concept.
But I don't know anybody that plays that shoots dice on a regular gathering every single time. Like he said, it's regular business. You know what I'm saying? Spades maybe, but just a little, a little different. But act like I don't know. Mark, you yourself have called me out of hibernation to be like, yo, I need a spades partner. You know what I'm saying? Can you come down here in 15 minutes? Like you've done that.
Li-
I don't know why you trying to do me like this, man.
Listen, I know who you were. I don't know who you are.
Oh, that's what that's what we doing. That's what we doing. You know what I'm saying?
Um,
For a guy that just told me that he don't really drink like that, you just sure as hell just described a drinking night. You know what I'm saying?
hey
It's kind
man,
of in the same manner and fashion that I would describe a drinking night. But you know what? That's neither here nor there.
hey,
Maybe I
listen,
don't
man.
know you either, Mark.
Hey man, I'm just, I'm just saying. That's all. Like I'm just here. Like you seemed like it was a foreign concept to you, and I was
Come on,
just
dog.
trying
Don't
to
do me. Don't do
bring
me
you
like
up to
that.
speed. So,
See, this is what happens. You always start out like this, and this is why I always cook you when we start talking. Let's
here we
continue.
go.
Let's
Here we go.
continue.
Anyway,
You be
we're gonna
asking
get
for
into this, man. That's enough of the banter. Hey,
it.
Bio, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Tell us what sports you like, what got you into sports, and what made you interested in joining us today.
Cool. So my favorite sport is basketball.
Mm-hmm.
NBA, college, high school. I still go to my old high school games. Just basketball is probably my favorite sport. What got me into it? Honestly, it was Allen Iverson. Like Allen Iverson is the sole reason why I like hooping. I was like 7, 8 years old, and just to see this dude that's like 5'10", and I used to like look because my mom is like 5'5", so I'm like he barely taller than my mother, and he's out here cooking dudes in the NBA. So that was my main inspiration in liking hoops and following basketball. And as far as football, I got into football, I want to say when I was like 10. It was really Culpepper and Moss, like just like their connection, how much fun they was having. Like,
Yeah.
the whole you got Moss, that type of stuff when we was outside playing. That kind of got me into football. So basketball and football are probably my main sports. But then I follow soccer, the European soccer. I follow combat sports a little bit. I'm more into boxing than I am MMA. Sorry, I know y'all big MMA guys on here, but
Dog,
I'm more of a boxing guy.
I love boxing. I just don't like the state that it's in or the
Yeah,
state that it's been in for the
The
last
politics,
15
yeah, the
years.
politics
yeah,
behind it.
Yeah, the
and
politics is
that's
horrible, but don't get it twisted, yo. I'm straight up a boxing fan.
like, and honestly, like I'm a huge boxing fan as well, but like that's kind of what leaves us from talking about it as much because knowing the state of the politics behind it and why this person's not fighting that person and knowing like why this person is fighting this person and like how that all works behind the scenes, I it leaves a bad taste
Yo,
in my mouth and I
we
don't want
just
to
had a
really.
prediction about when like what I can't remember what fight we was talking about. I think it was the Errol Spence versus
Yeah.
Crawford fight, and we sat here and even said the shit probably won't happen for another 5 years. And it's literally just because of the boxing politics. You know what I'm saying? Like yeah, this it makes it hard. It makes it hard to cover the sport and talk about it when the politics keep getting in the way, which is also a reason why the sport is dying. But people would
Well,
pretend like it's not.
it's
People,
not,
let me put it this way.
dying, but it felt like it took a decline and then just
What
went stagnant.
what I'm gonna say is the people act like it's not dying only because of the pay-per-view numbers. And to be real with you, it's only because it's a worldwide sport. If boxing, so it's gonna do its numbers, but to keep it real, it's they have to inject the interest artificially for people to go out and watch it because they're not just naturally letting the fights happen.
That's fair.
That's what it is, yo.
That's a fair statement.
Yeah.
but yeah, and I wouldn't me personally, I wouldn't say it's dying per se, but stagnated is more like it's definitely declined, but since the decline, it has stagnated. I don't think it's gone any further down since the initial decline. So
You
that's
know
why I
what?
would
That
say
could be a whole
stagnated.
nother discussion for another day.
Right.
Because I would argue against that
Okay.
based on the casual fans' interest in boxing today versus what it was during the initial decline.
Yeah.
But
All right.
like I said, that's
That's a
another day.
topic for another day. Topic
Thank you.
for another day.
You know,
Continue, bio.
Yeah, and then also like sports like baseball, I really only get into around playoff time when the games like mean something because
yep.
it's too many games. They play middle of the day on a Wednesday. I'm not really trying to watch that. So with playoff baseball, when the crowd's really into it, when like every pitch means something, that really gets me going. So I follow playoff baseball, not regular season baseball. And then that's really it as far as sports go. I'm not into any of the drag racing and none of that, the auto sports and none of those.
All
And
right.
All
then
right.
kind of like what got me here today, I'm a fan of the show, as y'all know. I try to listen as much as I can, subscribe to the YouTube channel, all that. So it's cool to
Appreciate it.
just link up, get to talk sports.
That's
Dope,
what's
dope.
up.
Yep. Well,
Appreciate it,
definitely
dog.
we appreciate you listening, man.
Yeah, we appreciate all our listeners.
Yeah.
Um, all 10 of you.
He said all 10 of you. I mean, it's definitely more than 10, but I feel you, Mark. I feel you.
No, yeah,
we ain't
no,
there yet. We ain't arrived yet, but we gonna be.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man. With this with this episode, there's a lot to get into. Um, we're going to be talking. We're definitely, our usual suspects: basketball, football. We're going to even throw college football into this conversation today. And I've been purposely avoiding college football this year because I wholeheartedly disagree with there even being a college football season, watching all these players get sick and none of them be paid, but the college and the coaches' pockets are steadily being lined. It puts a bad taste in my mouth. So I
Yeah.
so I just haven't been covering it this year, but we got to talk about it today because some crazy stuff happened yesterday. Um, and so let's just get into it. But this wasn't on the slate, but now that Bio has mentioned it, when it comes to the when it comes to the too many games situation in basketball, I'm of the mindset that there's too many games in basketball. Um, I feel as though an 82 game season is just far too much for someone like myself. For the most part, up until we started this podcast, I usually don't start really paying attention to basketball until All-Star break, until like right before All-Star break. And so um I just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on do you think there's too many games in basketball, and um what would be a solid number for you if it was to be reduced? I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Bio.
I say yes and no. So me personally, I don't mind the 82 game season because I like having basketball on every night, having someone on television I can watch as far as sports go. But I think what's happened is like the regular season has been kind of like devalued because people, your performance in the regular season really doesn't mean much, right? So if you look at like, two examples of this are like Montrezl Harrell and Jeremy Grant last year. Like Harrell was amazing in the regular season, won six man of the year. In the playoffs, when things really kind of matter most, he didn't play as well. And when you look at the contract he got 10 million a year versus Jeremy Grant, who didn't play. He was all right in the regular season, had a phenomenal playoffs, and then all of a sudden he's getting 20 million a year. So what that makes the players do is say, why should I care about the regular season when it doesn't really, the performance that I have in the regular season doesn't really have that much of a bearing on what I'm getting as far as money goes. So that's why you see a lot of like people resting games and sitting out games. So from that aspect, I think it would be cool to lower it down to 70 games or something like that, to where you can't really rest your guys too many nights because you only have 70 games. Now you have 82. You only, to get in the playoffs, if you can win 50 of them, you're good money. But if that stays with the 70 games, guys aren't going to be sitting out back to backs. You see like Kyrie and KD sitting out, or Kawhi Leonard just will randomly miss 2 games due to his knees, or historically like LeBron would miss games for rest. So me personally, I like the 82 games, but I can understand trying to raise that excitement level for the fans. So to me, like 70 or even 72, like they're doing this year, I think that would be like a good number of games. I don't want it to go down to like 50 to where, games are on once or twice a week. That kind of like doesn't hold much weight with me. But yeah, I'd say like 70, 72 would be a perfect amount.
Okay. I do have a challenging question. But I'm going to go ahead and kick it to Shawn and let him give his opinion first.
Okay, yeah. Man, I have so many mixed emotions about this, but yes, I do feel like it's too long of a season. First things first. To piggyback off of what he said, it just the games don't have as much meaning. It doesn't have as much meaning to the fans, and it doesn't have as much meaning to the players. So just off of those two things alone, there should be a change. Um, to dive deeper into what he was talking about with the players and their contracts and things like that, and the players taking the games off. This is the wave that the league is today. And Adam Silver seems to be a pretty progressive commissioner. And I'm sure that he's probably looked at this the same way that I'm about to say it. Is the landscape of the NBA has changed and he's been formatting the NBA to fit the landscape, the new landscape, and the new changes, to try to still put out the best product. And what I think he should do is, instead of trying to change the players like everybody always does, is, hey, we'll tell them to stop taking breaks, try to find them. Like, people don't understand this generation of people, not just players. They really don't be going for just do it because I said so, or just do it because that's the way it used to be, or just do it because that's the way it should be. That's not you're never going to convince these players to stop taking a rest. Okay, they feel like that's what's best for them, then that's what they're going to do. If the money is even leading them that way, then that's what they're going to do. So it's already too late to change that. So I say 65 games. I'm old enough to remember 50 games, the 50 game season, and the reason why people consider it to be an asterisk season is because I remember the New York Knicks playing like trash. I remember the New York Knicks after the lockout coming back and being the only team on fire. I remember them being extremely hot, and they to the point to where they got into the playoff hunt. They made it into the playoffs, and they were a lower seed, and then they just ran through the playoffs because they got hot right at the right time. Now granted, that might be something that's a true statement for certain sports like hockey or football, but it shouldn't be the case for basketball. That's the whole purpose of having all these games. So it literally took away from what we were seeing, because you had one team come out hot after a couple months off, or after like a month off, and then everybody else was rusty. So they came in and advantage Knicks. They just went in and cleaned up. It would mean there's nothing that anybody can really do about it. I mean, granted, they ran into the Spurs, but the Knicks shouldn't have been there. The Knicks, like usually any other season, you could say the best teams made it to the finals in the NBA. That 50 game season was not one of them. So I don't want to see 50 games. 65, I think, is a good number because we do need it to be reduced. But I'll also even venture to say that when you talk about guys like Kawhi, you talk about guys like Kyrie, or that take nights off, I bet you their number is somewhere around 15 to 20 games. So if you drop it down to 65, we would be talking about knocking off 17 games. So therefore, that would kind of, I think it would alleviate the taking nights off. Guys like Kawhi would still take nights off, but it would definitely reduce the amount that he's taken, especially considering the amount that he took off last year. Me and you, Mark, we both talked about it. It felt like he was gone every other game.
Yeah, just about. So, I do like Shawn, I do like your number a little bit more of 65 games. I think that's would put it so basically where you wouldn't have basketball Monday through Friday the same way you do now. Or maybe you would, but just each team, it would be less teams on this at the same night.
Yeah.
Um
Well, let me
and
make one more statement before I'll let you take the floor. I would also propose that the season be shortened from beginning to end wise. That way you do not lose those days that you would typically have the games. But that's where my heart is torn because obviously after football and then basketball, then what? Then we have
right.
that lull that nobody likes to deal with, because baseball hasn't gotten interesting yet because they haven't gotten to a month before the playoffs start. So I mean, that's the only downside is that for the fans will lose out. But NBA, yeah, shorten amount of games, take a month off the season.
Well, okay. Um so for me, short amount of games, but I don't know if I would take a length off the season because the main purpose of shortening the amount of games is for rest. And if the players are still playing back to backs, then you're throwing that rest out the window. Like
Well,
so
taking a month off, they're not playing 17 games in a month, so they're still getting a little bit more rest than they were before. But it's just a matter, yeah, it's just a matter of I still want to have like for guys like Bio, I want the interest to still be there. I still want him to be able to see games every day.
right. And like for me, I think the way that they have this season is almost perfect. The only thing that I personally would have changed is I wouldn't have started basketball until after Christmas. Like that's just me purpose personally. I would like basketball should start after Christmas
Well,
and go into June.
I
So
still think there's too many games in too short a period of time this year.
yeah, yeah, because yeah, which for sure because it's only 10 games less and they're playing and they only reduced by a month, so it's not the same. But it's getting closer. Like I said, 65 is closer to that number I would like to see. But as far as teams getting in that shit that have no business being in, that's happening now. Like that's happening now because of the format of the regular season. Like for instance, like there's no way you could convince me that the Sixers deserve to be in the playoffs last year. And there's no reason like and you can't convince me that they truly deserve to be in the playoffs not when Jimmy was on the team but the year before.
Yeah.
Um because in my reasoning being is because that fast break stuff that won them 45 games and won them 50 games and all that, that was all great in the regular season when people aren't really tooling up to stop you, but in the playoffs when it becomes a half court, now we see exactly what you really got because now we're actually playing defense. And and the Sixers was 4 and out. Like and they shouldn't have been there. Like the coaching was bad and everything. Like so this so it
I'll
just
say
goes.
this. That's kind of not a fair argument because of the injuries and all this other stuff. But I do understand what you're saying. But that's also a part of it too, though. Like,
What injuries?
was Ben Simmons and Embiid both there for the playoffs this past year?
This past year Embiid was, Ben Simmons wasn't, but they were better, but they were better off
They,
without Ben Simmons. It has been shown Ben Simmons in the playoffs is a liability.
but what I'm saying is they still weren't at full strength, and I feel like they
But
wouldn't
he's a
have gotten
weakness.
swept. They wouldn't have gotten swept if they had Ben Simmons there.
Uh, they got
I'm
swept
not
by the
saying it would have
they got
saved them
swept
from
by the
losing.
Celtics with Ben Simmons there.
Yeah,
So help me, understand.
You know what? I'm not gonna be on the slander on the 76ers slander train today, boss. But I will say I do understand your point. I understand the point that you're making,
But
and
I'm not trying to slander them. I'm just making.
no,
the
you're
point.
not. You're not. I'm just saying I'm messing with you though. But I understand your point. Like you try to use an example, but I mean, yes. If the season was shortened, a few things would have happened. They would have the injuries. They would have fell to the injuries. They would have never been able to catch back up and get there. You know, they would have. You have to make a decision because what most teams do right now, which Bayo, I want your opinion on this. What most teams do right now is the regular season ain't even really to win games. You have certain teams like the Bucks. That's what they do in the regular season. The regular season is set up so they can win games in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way they format the whole team. Other teams, anybody that plays on a LeBron team, their regular season is used to perfect their lineups, to perfect whatever changes they've implemented to the team and the way that they play, to try to get some type of cohesiveness defensively. Like if you're going to tinker with your lineup and tinker with things and try out things, then the test period is a regular season. So for a lot of teams, the regular season is just a test period, or they built their teams to have success in the regular season, and that's it. So with the reduced season, you would have to make that decision. LeBron, you can't sit here and tinker with your shit. You can't say, you know what? I don't need to take over this game at the end of the day because I want this to be a learning experience. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't do that. Like teams would not be able to do that. They would be forced, Mark, to play. And
Right.
the biggest issue I have with regular season play is teams play their game, and that's what they do. Nobody plans against their opponents
At all.
unless your name is Greg Popovich. You know what I'm saying? Unless your name is Doc Rivers, unless you know what I'm saying, there's a very, very small handful. Unless your name is Nick Nurse or Eric Spoelstra, you are not playing each opponent in a regular season like, hey, I need to attack the weaknesses. The rest, everybody else in the league is just out here saying we're gonna play our game, and that's the biggest
Even
difference
for
between the regular
coaches,
season and the playoffs.
even for
Playoffs, people
coaches
are
that
like,
are
yo,
good at it, like the Boston Celtics coach, like he's good at planning for your weakness. He does not do that in the regular season. He waits to the playoffs to actually plan for a team. So
yeah. I would
regular
love
season
to
doesn't
see
matter.
50 regular season, 50, 65, however many regular season games where teams actually play each other like that. That would be fantastic. You know?
I have to push back a little bit on the point about teams preparing for the playoffs within the season, because that still happens. You know, NFL has 16 games, and that still happens there. Like Bill Belichick is notorious for that. Like, if he has to see a team that he thinks that they'll see in the playoffs, like he's not going to go all the way out in week 8 on them. He's going to hold some things back. He's not going to throw certain defensive coverages at them, and then when you see him in the playoffs, it's a completely different look. So it still happens.
Well, that's
It's not as
football is
wide.
this is what I'll say real quick to counter that. Football is different. It's one and out. You have to hold your cards. You can't show them your ace. In a 7-game series, you can make adjustments on the fly. So it doesn't matter if they see what you had during the regular season.
Yeah, but making adjustments on the fly, it'll take you a game to make an adjustment. So you still might lose a game in the playoffs due to a weird quirk. Like you know, if a team just decides to throw a funky lineup out there in a playoff game, you may not have the ability to adjust to it right then and there. But then the next game you'll adjust to it. Like, you know, the Miami Heat had a zone. It might work for a game because you're just throwing it out there and the team hasn't seen it. But once they are able to prepare for it, they're going to kill it the next game. But due to the fact that you threw it in there in game 1, you were able to steal game 1 based off that. So there's still a push and
Yeah,
pull.
there's still a level of strategy. But I mean, and to be honest with you, I understand fully what you're saying, but that's the only something that I would expect from a guy like Spoelstra, or something that I would only expect from a guy like the guys that are actually coaching. But like I said, like, do you think Budenholzer? Because like the way that Mark feels about the Sixers is the way that I feel about Budenholzer. Period. Like, do you think he's looking at the regular season and being like, you know what, I could clip these guys, but you know what, I'm gonna save that for the playoffs? No, man, that dude's just out there running the same goofy ass lineups, the same as that. Like, everybody knows what the Bucks are doing. Certain teams just ain't equipped to stop it.
But that's
Certain
why he
teams
gets
are
exposed in the playoffs.
certain teams are equipped to stop it, but they just refuse to game plan against it in the regular season. Like, you seen how bad Miami did them. I haven't checked the regular season record for last year for Bucks versus Heat, but I guarantee you they didn't sweep them.
Right.
Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, Pete, they just like they can see the Bucks on the schedule and be like, look, man, this ain't about the dub. We're gonna try to perfect what we're doing in this game and see if it works to beat them. I
Yeah,
mean, it's almost like the regular season is an experiment to me. You're
right.
still trying to win the game, but that is not the main objective.
Just to wrap this up, one thing we can agree on is that the regular season does need to be reduced to make it more competitive. We just disagree on the amount of games that it should be reduced by. Um, and there's a myriad of reasons as to why, which we've all named, whether it's the getting the players to play more, or whether it's the or whether it's to get a more competitive experience between the teams, and or is it for the fan experience as well, so fans don't miss out on their favorite player playing? Because I know damn well, if if I paid for a Philadelphia 76ers ticket versus the Lakers, and LeBron and AD decide to sit out that game, I'm gonna be pissed. Like, like I'm gonna be I'm
You're
gonna be
like, I'm not
hot.
here to see the Sixers.
Like, dog.
I'm saying,
Like, I'm gonna be hot as hell. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it just, like, for all aspects except for money from the amount of games being played, basketball needs to be reduced.
okay,
Right.
but
Like, that's the only aspect where it's a con for basketball is you may be making less money because of less games being played.
okay. So I mean, this is what I'll say. I have one question just to end it, and all it is a simple yes or no. Do you think that Adam Silver will uh, make this a permanent, or do you think he will make a permanent change to the amount of games being played during the regular season, considering what happened this past year and what's happening this year?
No.
No, it's not up to him. Um,
It's not up to him, but yeah, I think he will make an attempt. I personally think he'll
he
make
may make an attempt, but it's not going to happen. It's up.
the
It's up to
players
the
want that
owners.
bag, huh? The players.
The player association and the owners will not allow that.
Got it.
Um,
Sound like they need a new TV deal.
yeah, essentially
Put more games
because,
on TV. That's it.
but yeah, um, I don't want to open a whole nother can of worms with that, but
No, that's why I wanted the yes or no.
yeah. But moving on, um, so I just briefly I mentioned how the Sixers were a liability in the playoffs, mostly because of Ben Simmons and how he's a weakness to that team come playoff time because he doesn't stretch the floor. Um, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys and you guys out there. I did not realize how much and how frustrating it must be to play with Ben Simmons as your point guard until I started playing NBA 2K21. Like, Doug, Like this dude is my point guard on my player, and like they made his AI play like him. So I get trapped and I kick it out to him, and he's sitting there in the mid range or the three, and he doesn't take the shot, or he'll try to drive the lane and then he'll get trapped and then we have to reset, and it's like essentially got just four people on the court, and I try to avoid passing to him because he's not going to do nothing with the ball, like, and I want to give the ball to somebody that's going to do something with it, and like I get I get the frustration that much more when when I have to experience it on some level. Now, I say that to say, last night in a regular season game, not in the bubble, not in the bubble exhibition match or in the gym, Joel Embiid passes the ball to Ben Simmons in the right corner. With no hesitation, Ben Simmons takes the corner three, all net. Do you guys take this as an indication that Doc Rivers may actually be getting a change out of Ben Simmons? And I'll kick it to you, Shawn, first.
Man, let me tell you something, dog. Let me tell you, we got excited about a 3-pointer that Ben Simmons took in the beginning of the bubble, and we all asked the question of whether or not this man is. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. We all thought maybe Ben Simmons is going to actually shoot for the playoffs, and then I don't think he ever took another 3-pointer again, because that was it, because he took 2 threes that day, right? See, it's crazy that I can remember it because he just never takes them. So yeah, no, he's not getting no damn change out of Ben Simmons, man. Boy, this is the thing, man. It's like that. It's like playing Mario Brothers. I don't know why it's in my head right now. My son got his Nintendo Switch, but you know what I'm saying? Once you hit that brick, your little question mark brick, and you get 1 coin out of it, that's it. That's all you got. That bitch is done. You know what I'm saying? You got to move on, find another one. You know what I'm saying? Like he took his 1-3 mark. You got 3 points off of it, and that's it. Ben Simmons is the only person that can change what's happening here. Yes, I'm sure Doc is going to try to influence that, but Doc Rivers being the coach that we believe him to be, Mark, he has already game planned for Ben Simmons not shooting the 3. Okay. So therefore, even if he is putting some type of bug in his ear about it, he is not going to apply that pressure because he's such a good coach, and he is a coach that probably already walked into the situation planning for him not shooting that. So no, I don't think there's going to be any change, man.
Fair enough, but I'm going to ask you this. They say that all you got to do is see it go in. Like, hey, he's seeing it go in the regular season, and
that does not apply to Ben Simmons. They say that about shooters, Mark. All a shooter needs to do is see it go in, not Ben Simmons. Not Ben Simmons, dog. That game that we talked about when he had those 3-pointers, that he took those 3-pointers in the bubble. He made one, didn't he?
Those were exhibition matches. That's why I made.
Look, man, you keep calling them exhibitions.
They didn't count.
I'm just saying.
But he's shown in practice and stuff that he'll take the shot when it doesn't count. Like, this is the first time
where he pulls up. Look, man, I'm telling you that this man, for whatever reason, does not want to take jump shots in an NBA game, and he's not going to. Like, y'all could wait for that boat. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I'm not.
I'm not waiting for that shit to arrive, yo. He's not gonna. This means absolutely nothing, Mark. Now, this is what I'll say. I'll leave you with this before I'm done. If I see him take another 3-pointer, you know what I'm saying? Especially if it's another corner 3, because I think that's where the significance is if he takes another corner 3 within the next week or 2, then it'll pique my interest. because everybody knows that that's the shorter 3-pointer that you can make. That would let me know that if he takes 2 corner threes, that it's a concerted effort.
Okay.
But nah, man, no, I'm saying no to this. I'm not waiting for that other corner 3. But go ahead.
All right, Bio, kicking it to you, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's like Ben Simmons doesn't he looks like he doesn't want to shoot it. And then in their like training camp interviews, Doc Rivers made it a point to say, like, yo, I won a championship with Rajon Rondo as my point guard who didn't shoot or couldn't shoot well either. So he's making it seem like he's not even asking them to shoot. As of right now, he's not.
To be clear, there's a huge difference between Rajon Rondo not being able to shoot well and just a complete unwillingness to shoot at all. But
they get guarded the same way. Like the way dudes just stand in the paint on Ben Simmons, they do the same thing to Rondo. And Rondo
would give you 20 points if you do that.
Not because
Rondo would shoot.
Not purely off of jumpers, but he will there's probably 6 to 8 points that he's getting off of that because y'all are playing and sagging off of him. That's what happens. And then when you finally step out there, then he gonna cook.
That's what I'm saying. Ben Simmons could do the same thing. It's just he has to study Rondo's game and how Rondo operated with like the floater or the little running hook shot that he had in the paint. There's a path to success for Ben Simmons to be able to get 17, 18 points in a playoff game without hitting threes.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I hate that people are making this more complicated than it is. He don't need to study shit. Just start taking the shots to begin with. But he's not going to. What I'm saying is this: from the footage that I've seen of him shooting, the Bigfoot rare footage that you see of him shooting in pickup games and practices or shoot arounds, he makes his jumpers. I don't even think that Ben Simmons is a bad shooter. I don't think he needs to learn how to shoot. Shooter. I think I'm not saying he's a great shooter, but I don't.
He shoots like 50% from the free throw line. He's a bad shooter.
Just because you shoot 50% from the free throw line doesn't mean that. Just you know what? You played ball before, haven't you?
Yeah.
Then you fully look, man. I used to be horrible from the free throw line. You know why? Because I didn't practice shooting them. Free throw line is more about repetition. For some people, it's about consistency in your form and the shot and all this stuff. You don't develop that unless you practice it. You have to do it. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. The first step to everything else is always just to do it when it comes to shooting. You don't get better as a shooter unless you actually shoot. And you can't just do it in practice.
But you're speaking as a normal person. We're talking about an NBA player that gets paid $30 million. He practices everything. Like, you're bringing up a pickup game or shoot arounds. Like, if you've ever been to an NBA game, them dudes don't miss and shoot around. Like, these are the 450 best players in the world.
I'm not saying he's knocking all his.
I've seen Dwight Howard. Like, Dwight Howard makes all of his free throws in shoot around. Like, he'll tell you that. Shaq will tell you that. In practice, I could go 15 of 15. Okay. But in the game, I don't shoot them well.
Well, let me put it this way.
That's the same thing with Ben Simmons.
Do you think Ben Simmons is a worse shooter than Joakim Noah? I think Ben Simmons can shoot better than him. And what I'm telling you is,
why are you so close to the screen?
Noah take more jump shots, and they're ugly. And I've seen his free throws, and they're terrible. What I'm saying is, if people were allowing Joakim Noah to put up shots on a fucking basketball court, and he still can manage to shoot somewhere near 30, probably 35%, 30% from jump with his jumpers, I would even take that from Ben Simmons right now. Because like I said, I think the biggest hurdle is the mental hurdle of him just not wanting to shoot. If you could at least get him to break out of that, then he'll be moldable to where you can say study Rondo. You can say do this. You can do all that shit you want to. He can do all that shit in practice. Let's say you get him and you get him in the camp and you got him working with somebody. Let's say you do have him working with Rondo or somebody of that nature. Let's say you got him working with Jason Kidd, because these are the type of players that they were too. You get him working with Jason Kidd in practice. What is, like, you're saying he does everything in practice. it doesn't matter what you do in practice if you don't do it in the game, and that's what I'm saying. So like we can talk like I'm not saying that you're wrong. I agree with you. He should study these guys. He should do these things. But I'm saying that's putting the cart before the horse.
Right.
He has to start taking shots first.
Yeah.
But he's not
He
going
got
to.
to see. He
Like,
got to see what
he said he's
he
not
has.
going to. So it's not
What I'm
like
saying,
it's
I
just
know,
not going
I
to
know.
happen. He's been in the league 6 years. Like you can't. If you're
Yes,
not
no,
taking jumpers for 6 years, I just
yeah.
don't.
Well,
I
that's the
think it's
thing.
more likely than not that he's going to continue to not shoot.
Well, let me put it this way. Okay, and I'm gonna get off this after this.
4 years.
Avery Johnson.
Oh, 4
Avery
years.
John.
Pardon me.
Avery Johnson, you obviously know he was a point guard for the Spurs. He helped them with some championships. Avery Johnson was a point guard that couldn't do shit. He was basically Eric Snow. He can run an offense. He's gonna give you some defense. He's undersized, but then like he can't shoot. You couldn't even get him to beat people off the dribble to get to the hoop. He was Eric Snow. Okay, um, they worked with him to develop some type of a jump shot. I remember the season when they had him trying to shoot from everywhere. It wasn't until he actually started trying to shoot from everywhere that he discovered that baseline was his area. So they had him basically, it was a thing to where if you watch Avery Johnson footage, and all his damage was done at a mid-range baseline because he found what worked for him. He found what was comfortable for him. What I'm saying is, Ben Simmons is never gonna know what's comfortable for him if he never tests his boundaries.
Yeah.
It's him getting him to test his boundaries is what needs to be done first before you start having him train with people.
Okay.
I just don't think anybody's capable of getting him to do that.
Now, I will say this, Bio, you mentioned like maybe he's studying Rondo and all that. But the issue with that is that even with what Rondo was able to do, it all started with him being the willingness to take the shot that opened up everything else. Because without that willingness to take the shot, nobody ever respects you enough to try to close out on you. And they will, so like you could be out there all day. I'm going to stay in right here because you have to come here to try to score. Like, so you're never going to be able to work that same sort of magic that Rondo was able to do because no part of you ever forces somebody to close out. Like, because even though Rondo is not the greatest shooter, we've seen many a nights where Rondo gets hot, like really hot for shooting, and like now you have to respect that and you have to play it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
they all NBA players, Bio, like you said. Like anybody can get hot. Anybody can go on a shooting streak in the NBA. You know how you know how hard it is to go on a shooting streak when you're not even taking the shots. Like
Right.
it's not even a threat. There's not even a
Right.
threat for it. So like that's the thing, Like
yeah. Now I do have a question for you about it because you brought it up, that he's not going to, and he won't. Now, mind you, I always said this as well, exactly what you're saying, but I put the onus on his previous coach, that because I believe that it is a mental thing, but I personally believe that it's a mental thing that should have been nipped in the bud his first year of playing a full season, which was that Boston playoff series. Brett Brown allowed him to stay in that allowed him to keep playing in those games, even though TJ McConnell was far outperforming him, simply because TJ McConnell was willing to shoot and McConnell got hot on defense and he was hitting his shots. But he chose to keep playing Ben Simmons, like for whatever reason.
because he's a starter.
But
he's
like
he's not just a starter, he's a superstar. Like
But I have other thoughts I have thoughts about that would lead to me in making another conversation. So I'm gonna leave that there. But essentially, what should have happened, in my opinion, was he got benched. If he got benched and so it was told, you're not starting the next game because I need something and we need to win these games. This is the playoffs. Him going from being a starter to not starting in the playoffs, that would, I believe, would have changed something mentally to make him say, to decide within himself, I need to start shooting. I have to start doing this because this is affecting my ability to play. But because Brett Brown kept playing him anyway, it showed it don't matter what I do, I'm going to still be playing. Like, you know what I mean? I'm allowed to do whatever the fuck I want. So, I guess I'm saying this to get to, do you think that Doc Rivers will be able to trigger something to force Ben Simmons to overcome the mental hurdle?
I think he can, but like I said earlier, with his interviews, he sounds like he's not gonna force him to. I think Brett Brown didn't have the freedom to, because if Brett Brown is I'm not gonna play Ben Simmons, I'm not gonna play the number one pick or whatever.
Well, he's not trying to get fired.
Right, exactly. And Ben Simmons goes to the upper management and is like, hey, bro, tripping, he's not playing me. Brett Brown's gonna be fired. It's easier to replace the coach than to replace the number one pick, the face of the franchise. So with Doc Rivers is a Hall of Fame coach. So when he come in there and says, hey, I need you to do this, this is how I won a championship before, he has more clout to get it done. I just don't think he's going to do it because he seems like from the way people speak about Doc is he's like a player's coach. So he'll let you do whatever you're most comfortable at because that's when you'll be at your best. He's a former player. He understands how to interact with players. So I don't think he's just going to sit there and be like, hey, I need you to shoot 3 threes a game or else you're not going to play. He might say, hey, it'd be nice if you could shoot, but if not, I have all of these sets that are going to get you the ability to score 18 still without shooting. So I don't think it'll be like a force. It'll kind of be like, hey, you could do this, but if you don't want to do it, I got this over here as well. So I don't think anybody's going to get Ben Simmons to shoot. I think, if anything, he should just switch positions, but that's a whole nother conversation.
No, it's the perfect
I know that's
conversation.
What you was looking for, Mark.
Because thank you. It's the perfect conversation because I've been saying that people need to just need to make him put his big boy pants on and say, you're a power forward. We're moving on. And that team would be, any team would be so much better if he just was a power forward.
To be honest with you, Mark.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Bayo.
Yeah, well, I was saying his problem is he's been told his whole life that he's LeBron. So, he's trying to be LeBron and play the perimeter. To me, if he played the way Draymond Green plays, it's just he's a better version of that. Just pick and roll, man. He's a way better passer. He finishes at the basket better. So, he could do that, still be the defensive player that he is. I think he's probably the best perimeter defender in the league. But he can guard all 5 positions on defense. And then offensively, he could be the screen and roll guy. But he wants to be LeBron James instead of being Draymond Green.
But guess what you got to do to be LeBron James?
Hey, look, man. Okay, so this is the point I was going to make because people bring it up and they always speak about power forward because he played power forward in college. Here's an idea that already exists in the world. Play the 3 and be a point forward. Only difference is have an actual point guard on the team as well. Because usually, if teams go with the whole point forward, you see how they do with LeBron. If you do a whole point forward thing, they'll give you a point guard that is the shooter, is a scorer first, that ain't really set there to really run an offense. My suggestion would be, especially in today's days and times, is to go more with the Chicago Bulls setup. Scottie Pippen was a point forward, but they always kept a point guard on the team that could run the offense. They didn't ask BJ Armstrong to do shit, but run the offense. You don't need to shoot. You don't need to do nothing else. Take your shots when you need to, but this shit ain't even about you. Same thing. When they had Ron Harper, it's like, look, man, we don't need you to do a bunch of stuff. In the times where we need you to run the offense, do that. If you have it to where the offense isn't strictly going through Ben Simmons because he's such a shooting liability, you know what I'm saying? what happens is in the moments where you do get the ball in the hands, you can run some plays from him as the starting point. That will be more on along the lines of, along the terms of either um of like I'm not gonna say pick and roll, but like some ISO stuff, anything catching them, slashing or whatever, you can do that. You can make him a slasher, and you can put the ball in the hands to where it's like, okay, we're gonna make him a slasher, but at the same time, if we put the ball in his hands, you got to worry about him passing, right? So you just makes him more of a threat that way, especially. But it only works if you have a point guard that can run an offense, not a shooting point. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you put a point guard on that team, now it's like, okay, that's not working. Kick it back out to the top. Now we have a point guard out there that can take care of business. And I think what you would see is you would see an offense that is a little bit more dynamic, and you will also see stat lines like Ben Simmons still getting you seven to eight assists with another point guard on the team that might get you 5 to 6. And I think that's where, and as long as that, all you would need is a point guard that can run the offense and that can shoot, which every point guard today is asked to do that.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like the solution is out there. I feel like somebody like Doc Rivers will eventually figure it out. I just think that there's a lot of pride, there's a lot of egos, and there's a lot of sensitivity when it comes to players' relationships with ownership. And that's what drives a lot of these things. Last point before I get off it, Mark, we talk about the coaches that coach the right way. We talk about Spoelstra. We talk about Popovich. We talk about what's his name in Dallas? Goddamn, was Rick Carlisle. We talk about these things. One thing that I never put together until about 15 minutes ago, until Bayo was making his point about the players going to ownership, is that the players in those situations can't go to ownership because ownership has their mind in the right place.
That's fair.
So that's the bigger issue. People,
that is very fair because you and I have discussed in episodes past about the friendship relationship between Sixers ownership and Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, and how that should not be the case. And also speaking, like, because I'm a Philadelphia native, like, I know these random stories. So, like, even when it comes to the Eagles, how Jeff Lurie has relationships with people like Jason Peters and Darren Sproles and stuff like that. And that's how you end up with contracts where Jason Peters is still here and he should have retired 2 years ago. So
yeah. So, but that's a whole nother topic I want to delve into another day with the culture, with the ownership's approach, because I believe that the belief in the ownership circle is do whatever it takes to keep your superstars happy. And in turn, their response to that is develop a relationship with your superstar.
All right. Well, fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay.
So, going to move on into the next topic, and the next topic, before we get into the one that everybody wanted to come down on my head on, so before we get into that, let's just talk about the Washington Wizards going 0-5 to start the regular season. And once again, the blame is landed at the feet of one Russell Westbrook. I'm just gonna ask this and keep it very brief. Is it fair that the blame lands at his feet?
Whew. I will say that if it was 0-2 start, I don't know. If it was a 0-3 start, 0-5 mark, some blame does have to land on him for sure. Because here's the situation, man. The way I can compare it to is a quarterback going to a brand new team, playing in a brand new system. We all understand there's going to be an adjustment period. We all understand that it's the coach's job to put them in the right position to win, especially considering that the coach is going to be the person in charge of the transition of the player that you need to run the entire offense and do everything. So there's going to be that learning curve. So I'll give you 3 games, like for the learning curve. And hey, you just got a brand new team. Everybody was injured last year. You got Hachimura that now that he was on the team last year. Now he was a big part of the offense or the team, and now he's on the bench because he's hurt. Like there's a lot of moving pieces. But with that said, at some point, if you are a superstar point guard, there should have been a way for you to get the dub by now.
Mm-hmm.
So all I will say is this: some of it has to go to, some of it is an indictment on Russ, but I think there's a slight overreaction just because of it being Russ. I honestly think any of the year, if the Wizards start 0-5, nobody gives a fuck because it's the Wizards and people expect them to be trash. So this, like I said, this is a situation where I think it's just, I personally don't know if they have a good coach. I've never felt that way. So I've always felt that way. I don't think they got the right coach for the situation that they're in, and I feel like that's more of what's showing here.
Okay, so
I
essentially
say I'll say 20% on Russ, 80% on the coaching staff.
okay, so we're just to keep it simple. You don't put it on Russ.
No,
Bye.
I can't sit here and say, yo, it's your fault. But
Okay.
he should have won a game, Mark. Come on, man.
Bye.
I don't really put it on Russ. I've watched him play maybe 3 times this year, and it's really defense. Like they just
He's
same thing
not
that happened
playing bad.
last year. Like they don't defend. Like I remember last year they had a couple games where they allowed like 140. Like if you're allowing 140 in regulation, you're not playing defense. So they just refuse to play D. They don't really rotate. They don't like move as a unit. So like to me, if a team's not good defensively, that's mainly on the coach. Because in 2020, like individual defense, in my opinion, in the NBA is like overrated because you can't really stay in front of guys. You're too skilled. So it's all about having the right rotations, having the right defensive system. And Scotty Brooks just hasn't implemented that in 2 years. So for me, yeah, could Russ play better? Of course. But I like in watching games, I'm not like, oh, Russ is really giving this one away. It's like they're not making enough shots, and then defensively, they're just not even trying. So I don't think it's over because they still are in the East. And then this year with the playing game, you just have to finish top 10. So to finish top 10, I mean, they'll have a losing record, but they'll still have a chance to make it in the
There's
playing
only
game,
15
even at this
teams.
rate.
There's only 15
Right.
teams in your
That's what I'm saying.
conference, man. Like you
So
gotta
yeah,
be
so
able to
they'll
finish top 10. Like
yeah, so I
Right.
don't think it's over for them. But I honestly expected them to be better. I thought they'd be like a top 5 seed just based on you have Russ, Bradley, Beal, and then just a bunch of shooters. I can't even pronounce his name. The young guy that they just drafted out of Israel is nice. Bertans is one of the elite shooters in the
I
league.
like Bertans.
Rui, I really like. He's a great defender, good in the mid range, can post up. So like they have a squad, but it's just not clicking right now. But I think they have plenty of time. Like 0-5 looks bad if you're trying to be top 4, but if you're just trying to get in the playoffs, they'll be fine. I still think they're a playoff team in the East. But yeah, I mainly blame the coaching staff because you should be able to formulate a defensive system in which you can at least somewhat hold teams. It's the NBA. I'm not expecting you to hold people under 100, but like
Right.
they're giving up 120s to the Chicago Bulls. They're giving up, I think they allowed 130 last night. They're giving up,
Yeah.
120s to
133
the Orlando
actually.
Magic. Yeah, they're giving up 120s to the Orlando Magic. It's like
Yeah.
these aren't even the elite teams. You haven't seen, the Bostons, the Lakers, Clippers, or those type of teams yet. So once you start seeing the elite teams, it'll get even uglier
Yeah.
if you don't defend.
Yeah. The defense thing is really an issue for me just because like me and Mark talk about it all the time. The NBA offensively, most people play the same way, man. Most people are going to have their shooters out there. They're going to have 1 or 2 players that they allow to do a little bit more ISO wise, or maybe they do some pick and roll, they pick and pop. They'll do a bunch of they'll actually be running plays for one or two players, and that's really it. Everything else is you'll score off of what they do to try to stop these two players, and that's what's happening. My issue with the defense is they're not stopping the one or two players that the players are being made for, which is normal. Like you said, I don't expect you to hold a team under 100. Stuff like that's going to happen. But those guys, the third, fourth, and fifth guys, should not be eating the way that they are against the Wizards. And that just shows me that there is like whatever game plan you have, it is not working. Either it's just like you have to say some of his game plan and some of his discipline, but you can have the best defensive discipline in the world, and if the coach ain't putting you in the right position to play defense, today's NBA is not the same as the NBA of yesterday. Only thing they're requiring people now to be on the court is just be able to make a three when you open. You know what I'm saying? So the idea is the very minimal they should be closing out on these guys, and obviously that's not happening.
Right. Okay. That's all fair. I do wanna point out that Russ has had a triple double in every game that he's played this season. The one game that I would contend, even though he had a triple double, but it was a bad game, was the Orlando game, the second game of the season, because he didn't play in the next Orlando game. But so, and when I look at them and I watch them, you are absolutely correct. Their defense is just bad all around, and I'm not going to labor a point and point out things that you guys already said. But I will point out that if you just taking a cursory look at a box score, you can see the bench scoring from their opponents and what they're getting out of their bench is just astronomically different. They're getting 15, 20 points out of their sixth man and seventh man, while the Wizards, their sixth man is going 0 for 8, or like, you know what I'm saying, or going 0 for 10. Like they need a consistent sixth man, because that guy is just constantly changing. They need somebody that's going to be able to consistently shoot if they are not going to do anything about their defense. Because
hopefully that changes when Hachimura comes back, but I don't know how much that's going to help. Like,
he was back last night.
Was he back last night?
Yeah, he's back last night. He played well too, but
it's
still,
they lost the game by 3 points.
Considering where he's at in his NBA career and his skill level, he's still kind of a raw player to me. That's what I mean. That's what I meant by I don't know how much it's going to change.
Right.
Yeah.
So
because look at it. Burton's 0 for 8. You know what I mean? Then you got all these other productions. Like basically, they're out there for time and not even shooting. Like, it is what it is. This team, and like it pretty much goes between Burton's and Raul Nato, which one is going to actually produce that day. And if one is producing, the other one's not. And they're the only bench players that's getting any significant amount of time.
And
so
coaching.
Yeah. Like, so it's so it pretty much all comes down to coaching for the Wizards, it would seem, and because I don't see them getting a player that's going to be able to put them over the hump scoring wise for bench production. So, but yeah, thanks. That was just something to.
I will say this, Mark. I really want to know where those people are at right now that have a problem with Russ and say that he be taking too much shots, because to be honest with you, I'd say he gotta win at least one of these games. If he decided to just take over offensively, they probably could have won at least one of these games. But he clearly is intent on trying to, make sure that he's being a point guard first.
It's unfortunate.
He always does that.
Yes. But that's my
Like
point.
that's
That's my point.
people make it seem like he's some ball. Like KD won 4 scoring titles playing with Russ. Like Paul George had the best year of his career playing with Russ. Like
Yes.
Hey,
he,
we said he be making MVPs.
yeah. The problem
But
is
that's
like if you don't demand the ball, Russ ain't. He's not just gonna give it to you. Like if it's crunch time and you're not demanding the ball, he'll take the shot. But
yeah.
And
throughout
thus,
the 48 minutes, he'll definitely make sure to get guys involved.
and that has always been my point and that's how the media has always vilified him when it came to KD, and because KD in the big moments early in his career was not demanding the ball, and Russ, being the type personality that he is, was like, okay, if you're not going to do it, I have to. And
Yeah,
it's
I mentioned this maybe once or twice before the mark, earlier episodes, and I was like, if you go back in bio, you seem like you be watching games like, oh, for real, for real. But if you go back to the Heat versus Thunder series in the finals, shoot, just that playoff run. If you go through that entire playoff run, you'll see the first 3 quarters is Russell Westbrook playing and getting the shots. KD wouldn't start throwing up shots until the fourth quarter. And I watched that. I remember watching the series like, yo, if KD decided to play this way for the first 3 quarters, they would be beating Miami. And I was like, yo, he literally would wait to the last minute to play aggressively to look for his shot. I mean, granted, now he's a little bit more, aggressive, and he's still not that aggressive. He spreads it out now over the 4 quarters, and yes, he still is the same guy now that will wait till the fourth, that'll
yeah.
turn up in the fourth quarter. But
It's all those
sometimes
burner accounts. They lit a
sometimes they
fire
need
under his
that,
butt.
yeah, sometimes they need that aggressiveness early on. What'd you say?
It said it's all those burner accounts. They lit a fire under his butt.
Oh, come on, man. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? But that's the thing. Yeah, like when KD's not taking shots in the first 3 quarters, Russell's like, okay, I'm taking them. That's as simple as that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Now we saw last year where he attempted to like take a step back and not be that guy. And in the bubble it kind of all fell apart. So it is what it is. But I'm just hoping that he doesn't. One thing that Russ has a tendency to do is when when losing starts to build up, or when it starts to, like, I guess, reach its precipice, either within the game or within the season, he becomes locked in and becomes like a race car that you can't shut off. And
Right.
and I'm hoping that he doesn't do that, because when he does that, like, he's out of control, and all basketball IQ goes out the window. Like all player know-how goes out the window. He's just all drive and go. And so I'm hoping that something changes soon before he flips that switch.
because you're right though, because that switch flip is coming. Because he probably like me, like, damn, I should have won at least one of these joints. Like, is he don't like losing.
No, like, so
Yeah,
I'm hoping that changes before that.
yeah.
Um, but with that said, let's move on to the meat and potatoes of this conversation. We've been already been talking for an hour and 13 minutes, and
Facts.
I know people like Ricky. Shout out to him. Been waiting for this, so we're going to talk about a former teammate of Russell Westbrook, uh, James Harden, man. So, listen, James Harden, once the media darling, once the go-to guy, once one of the faces of the NBA. Plaster him on your wall. You got posters of him. Now, public enemy number one, it would seem. Um, because a lot of things have been going around the media. A lot of things have been coming out about James Harden. Some of these things that we have already known about who he is as a player, and are some of these things are new, and it seems like there's a lot of persecution going on, I guess. And people want to say it's a smear campaign. I disagree. This is not a smear campaign. And the only reason I disagree that it's not a smear campaign is because in order for something to be a smear campaign, the allegations laid against you needs to be dubious or false. These allegations laid against him are neither dubious or false. The things that are laid against him are, in fact, things that he has done to some degree. And that's where the only area where you truly lose me, because I don't feel as though he's doing everything right or anything like that, but I do feel as though they are out to get him. Like, I feel as though both things are true. He's doing these things and they're out to get him. It's not like, oh, I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs being the good servant, and you guys just pointed me out and decided to lynch me. Like, no. They decided to lynch you because you decided to give them your ass to kiss. And they was like, well, we've been covering your ass for so long. Like, fuck you. Like, now we're just going to let everybody know exactly who the fuck you are, if this is how you want to play. And so what's happening to him in the media is partly his fault because of how he chooses to go about certain things. Now, Bayo, you are shaking your head no. So let's get into it, man. Go ahead, friend.
Yeah, so my thing about James Harden is, like, everything that's coming out about him, one, like, there's no issue with it, right? So he's not negatively affecting his team's performance by what he's doing, right? So everybody has things that they do. Like, NBA players are creatures of habit. So all of them have things that they like to do, ways that they like to feel comfortable in order to play well, right? Michael Jordan like gambling, Allen Iverson like going out, whatever. So for people to say things like, oh, look, he's taking a jet that he's paying for himself. It's not like he's taking the team jet or he's taking the owner's jet. He's paying for a jet for himself to go to Vegas on an off day. So he's not messing up in games. He's not doing any of that. He's averaging 35, leading the league in scoring. This is what he needs to do in order to feel at peace and feel comfortable to play at the highest level. Why is that an issue? Right? Like, and if all of this has been an issue for years, why is it now coming out when he demands a trade? Like, that's where the smear campaign comes from. Is like, it's not that what they're saying is wrong. It's that, like, it's ironic that all of this negative stuff about him is coming out at a time when he's demanding a trade from an organization, right? So, like, that's what I have an issue with. I don't have an issue with what they're saying, because what they're saying, there's nothing wrong with what's happening. Like, he's not doing anything that that I see as like, oh, nah, you can't do this as an NBA player.
Well, it's not. You are correct in that there's not anything that he's not doing that he hasn't already been doing, or that some other players haven't done before. Like you were saying, like Michael Jordan with his gambling and everything. And now, mind you, today in 2020, things are looked at a lot differently than they were then. But they were covering for Michael Jordan's gambling. They were still covering for Dennis Rodman's excursions and, like, where he would just disappear and come back. Like, you know what I mean? They were covering for those things. And these players toted a line. Like, you know what I mean? They toted a line basically where they had a certain amount of leverage, and so it allowed for them to still be able, well, not still be able, but the team wanted to still cover for those things or whatever, so that the way they're viewed in the public eye wouldn't change. Now, that is my point, is that we are at a place with James Harden where basically if he asked for a trade and showed up on time or did everything like normal or whatever, they probably you probably wouldn't hear a damn word. You wouldn't hear nothing. Like essentially, but the way that he decided to go about things now, it's like, oh, okay, you're like you want to trade and we've done X, Y, and Z for you. We've allowed this. We allowed you to form the team how you wanted. You wanted particular players on the team. We brought Westbrook in. Now that fell apart between you guys. Like, you know what I mean? We tried to make the team the way you wanted it to be. And so now you're telling us, fuck y'all, I want out. This is a problem. Like, so that's a problem for them. And so they're like, well, if this is how you're going to be, we're going to show you. Like, like if somebody want to know something about you, I'm not going to cover it. It is
But
what
he's
it
still
is.
he's averaging 37. It's not like
I know. Look, listen.
he's like no,
Look,
listen, like you're saying he missed training camp, he missed all cool. Like you could miss all that if you're gonna give me 37 a game. He's giving me 37.
Okay.
He's the best scorer. Well, not the best, but he's the most prolific scorer in the game, and he hasn't fallen off. But he had 44 his first game out there. So like, as long as you're performing, I don't care what you're doing off the floor. His teammates aren't the ones complaining. It's the ownership that's complaining.
Okay, Mark.
So like that's wild to me.
Let me step in. Because I feel like this is why I was bringing this up to Ricky when I talked to Ricky about it the first time. I didn't really get to delve into it too far, but Bayo, if you saw the conversation, then you heard some of it already. But here's the situation, man. As a player, as a star player in an organization, you guys are basically married in this partnership when it comes to this money. Mm-hmm. Okay. And there's more involved in the money than just your performance. Exactly. And here's where being a superstar, this is where you need to take consideration for other things. I obviously y'all know I was in the military, you know what I'm saying, and Mark can attest to this. And like for example, I was in the military. I was in Korea. Now, for the people that I worked with, my direct supervisor, let's say, i.e., like a head coach, they're not going to care as long as they getting what out of you, what they get out of you. So if like, for example, if I go to work and I'm like, yo, man, this is what I do on the weekends. I binge drink from Friday to Sunday. They're not going to give a fuck. Hey, they're going to tell me, you show up to work on Monday on time and you give me the best that you got. The second that performance drops off, then I'll start having a conversation with you about what you're doing on the weekends, right? It's still none of the damn business, but they would definitely now have an interest in it. Now, that relationship with me and my direct supervisor is totally different than my relationship with the Air Force as ownership. Because guess what? If I go out on the weekends, let's say I do everything, I don't do anything wrong, I don't get arrested, something just happens to where somebody speculates that I did something wrong, but they're just, something happened and wrong place, wrong time. I did nothing wrong, didn't break any laws, but now there's a perception out there, a negative perception about me out there in Korea. If that escalates, doesn't matter whether it's true or false. Now that's an international incident. Now the Air Force has a problem with me because now what I did affects the bottom line for them. That affects our status of whether or not we stay in that country. So to bring it back to James Harden, once you become a superstar, you become a face of a team. Once you become a face of a team, what you do off the court does matter because now it has a possibility to affect sponsorships. So it's not about whether he could come in and give you 35. Because guess what? If the sponsors ain't happy about something that he's not doing, then that 35 don't matter. They're gonna worry about that shit more than the 35 points a game. So therefore, like what I'm saying is, like he has to move in a certain way, and this is why I be getting upset with these players. It's because like yes, if you're the sixth man on the team, you can go do whatever the fuck you want. Everybody, it's a free world. Everybody can do whatever they want, but there's consequences to everything, man. You cannot like once like I saw he showed up late to camp. Then I found out later it's like okay, they said he had it was COVID protocol. Like so they knew that he was going to show up late. I have a problem with them reporting it in a manner and fashion to say that you know what he's late and that's all. Like no, y'all knew it was because of COVID shit. But then when you trace it back to his strip club world tour, now as somebody who's like, yo, man, this dude could be possibly fucking up my money. And it's because he decided he want to go on a strip club world tour. Now it's just a chain effect of everything. I still think the media is wrong for reporting the way they do. So that's why I say it's a smear campaign. These guys are deliberately going out of their way to report things in a certain way, even if they're not lying on him. He showed up late to camp. They're not being forthcoming with all the information. They're doing a lot of shady shit behind the scenes. But at the end of the day, as a player, you have to know that if you are a superstar in the NBA, that these are the things that can happen. These are the things that the media is going to do. And everybody knows that that a superstar's relationship with the media is a fragile thing. Everybody's seen KD go from being the media's darling. He was Steph Curry before Steph Curry. Everybody's seen how it turned real quickly once he started disrespecting the media. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it's not even about disrespecting the media. Sometimes it's just about you saying something wrong in the media's eyes that they don't fuck with or doing something wrong. You know what I'm saying? So you have to know that this situation is fragile. So I'm not gonna like James Harden cannot be upset at the way that everything is unfolding. Because James Harden is doing, yes, you can do whatever you want. It's a free country. But just know that there's consequences because everything is private business.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You have to move accordingly.
And that's essentially what I'm getting to when I speak on this is the fact that these are all things that are done by him. Nobody's making this up. Like this is a persecution run, but it's a pointed persecution run by like he set it up that way. Like if he wasn't being the player that he is being towards the organization now, then this wouldn't be happening. He chose this and they are moving accordingly. Like, okay,
Yeah.
well, this is how you want to do. This is how we do. Now,
Yeah.
now on the flip side of that, from a trading standpoint, with all that they're asking for James Harden, it doesn't make sense for them to go all scorched earth on James
It
Harden.
doesn't.
But they are clearly showing that they have something against them, and
Yeah.
by doing this, and that's where I agree is that yes, they have something against them. It's very clear they have something against them. But this is not made up stuff. These are very real things that are happening. Some of it's very insignificant, but let me put it like this, Doug. Like, because he brought up the military thing. If your chief doesn't like you, then you could come in 1 minute late. That's going to be a massive problem. Like, that's going to be a massive problem. You could be 1 minute late, and Johnny, who he does like and he drinks with on the weekends, could come in 1 minute late, and it's cool.
Yeah.
But like, if it's your fault and there's something that you did that made him not like you, then like you kind of set this situation up to be this way.
Yeah. So I guess the way to two things, I'll say that the organization is definitely summed up in a simple phrase that people use. You know, they're cutting off their nose to spite their face.
Yes.
Basically, is what's happening here. Because if they do get any trades off, then they're not going to get shit. So I think it's awfully ridiculous that they're offering, that they're demanding some of these trades, some of these things in these trades. But I believe it's two things, Mark. I believe they do want some type of value, and they're hoping they catch a sucker. But I also think it's a situation to where the punishment for James Harden is, yeah, fine, we'll demand a trade, we'll ask around, but they're asking for ridiculous things just so they
And
can
force
say,
you to
look,
be here.
we asked for a trade and we couldn't get one done. Your punishment is you get to stay. Just like the military, Mark. People think the worst thing that can happen to you is getting fired. The worst thing that can happen to you is that they keep you and give you less pay.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing in the world, is losing a stripe in the military, dog. Like, you telling me I can't quit, I can't go get bread somewhere else, I can't do that. You know what I'm saying? They keep you. That's the worst. That's the worst part.
Right.
You wish they had just kicked you out. But
now,
but
I mean, now
with
you
that,
are absolutely right on that part, because honestly, for them doing this, if that is their end goal, that's a win-win for them. You ask for a trade, we put you out there, and people don't want you.
it's all part of the smear campaign.
Yeah,
They're trying to
like
devalue this man in the
like
public eye.
we people don't want you, but meanwhile, while you're here, you can't damage yourself any further by playing bad, because if you play bad, then nobody will want you, and then your sponsors, then your personal sponsorships and all that'll go down. So you have to play well while you're here, and we got John Wall and everybody else here. So at the end of the day, you're gonna win us games, and you don't get what you want.
Well, so I'll say this, man. I hate everything because, like, the media does this whole thing where it's like, kiss our ass or else we're gonna kill you. You know what I'm saying? And I really hate that they have that power to do that. But then also they always try to sit on this righteousness. Like, I hate when I hear them say, oh, well, we took a vow in college, we're supposed to just report the news and report the facts and don't let anything disrupt that. And I'm like, y'all say that shit, but y'all do the exact opposite, man. And then y'all try to stand on this righteousness while y'all out here doing shit like this. Like, I really can't stand sports media. Like, they're the absolute worst. But it really upsets me just as much to see people walk into the trap. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I feel like Harden is walking into the trap.
I'm watching James Harden walk into the trap.
Bayo,
you are already a black athlete. Like, you're already a black athlete, and you're already like a superstar with all eyes on you. Like, don't make it easy, dog.
Okay, so Bayo, real quick, just to give you insight from somebody that has been in the military. Once you realize that your off-duty actions can affect your on-duty position and your on-duty money, that changes everything. That should change the way that you move. Yeah, you're still free to do whatever you want, but there can be negative ramifications from it. So I don't say dudes shouldn't go to the strip club. Man, that's a horrible decision. Or you should, like, do what you want, but as a man, be willing to accept what may come from it. You know what I mean? So
none of that, not to cut you off, none of that is like prohibited though. You're prohibited. Like, they give you a list of things that you can and can't do.
It's not
so like
fair.
It's not.
But
it's
being
not
in the strip club,
those are the rules. The cops can't pull me over and shoot me for no reason. Right. But knowing that it happens, and that's the way that people are playing, and that's the reality of the situation, I have to act accordingly. I can't just act like the shit won't happen to me just because it's not allowed. You see what I'm saying? That's the approach that I want these players to take. It's not fair. It really isn't. And I don't think they should have to alter the way that they move out, you know what I'm saying, based on what the media perception may be. But once you make it to superstar level, that is the reality in which you live.
Right.
I don't want to get pulled over by the cops and have to think about every single word that comes out of my mouth. It's not fair, and there ain't no rules against it. But guess what? If I say something slick to him, that could cost me something. You see what I'm saying?
I would just like to also point out that some of the stuff he's doing or has done is just plain irresponsible. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just,
and that's not like, but to Bayo's point, that's not my place to judge what he does.
Here's where it is the issue. here is where it is the issue. Like, for instance, the stripper world tour, no mask, none of that. You know what I'm saying? You saying fuck everybody. COVID doesn't exist for you, I guess. Meanwhile, players like Karl Anthony Towns has lost 7 family members to
But you don't
COVID.
know the situation. Everybody could have got tested at the door. You're just
So
assuming
everybody,
because he's in
so
a strip
everybody in
club.
the strip club got
It
tested at
was
the
a
door.
private party. It was him, one of his homies. They invited a bunch of people over. Like, you don't like what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the only thing he did wrong technically was not come to training camp on time, which happens all the time. Like, that's not a new phenomenon. Like, we all follow football. Like, that's
Right.
normal. People not
But no, but
reporting
this
to
is what
training camp
I'm.
is like an everyday occurrence. So like that's the
But
only
the,
thing he did wrong
but
was
no,
report to
no,
training
like
camp
yeah,
late.
but
But that's
from the
I'm sure not to cut you off. I'm sure they have protocol like that. If you miss X amount of days, you'll get fined. He's
right.
comfortable
Yeah.
paying that fine, and now he's back
Yeah.
getting 37 a game.
What-
None of that matters because
But
at
here-
the end of the day, as a player, you're graded on your on-court performance.
But
Yes.
Right?
listen,
You're
but
what
there's
you do
a
off the
difference.
court.
But there's a difference between coming to training camp late and sitting at home, twiddling your thumbs playing PlayStation, or coming to training camp late because somebody in your family got sick. Or there's a difference between that and coming to training camp late because you on COVID protocol because you acted irresponsibly by having a party or whatever, blah blah blah, and now we have to investigate what happened here. Was people tested? Was this? Was that? Blah. Like, we have to go through all these hoops and jumps now because of something that you did, where we expect you to use your brain and be like, I have this and this and this going on. I can't do this right now.
Well,
Like,
this is what I'll say.
And this is perfect to, and that, like, this whole strip club situation and the stuff that Booger McFarland is talking about is perfect to what's going on with Dwayne Haskins, which is what I'm going to transition to from this conversation.
Let me say one quick point then before you get there. You can do whatever you want to do. This doesn't even become an issue if what he was doing and the way that he was moving wasn't put out there to the world by putting it on social media. There's a lot of people that I've seen, including myself, that, you know, I probably put myself in some situations overseas that could have negatively affected my career, but nobody's ever going to know about them. So saying is, do to the players, do whatever you want to do, but be smart about it and be smart about the way that you do it.
Yeah.
Which,
Absolutely.
like you said, talk about Dwayne Haskins because he needs that message too.
Yeah. See, because this is why I correlate the two. Because, like, you've all seen the video that Booger McFarland on where he was talking to Randy Moss. For me personally, the only problem I had for his messaging was time and place when you say these black athletes to the world, it seems like you're talking about all black athletes. And that's where I have a problem, because you have now labeled a stereotype onto black athletes. You have put that out there. And you being a black athlete yourself, that you're a former black athlete rather, and you're talking to the world, you have now, your voice is amplified and you have put that on all black athletes for that stereotype to exist. And that's the only issue that I have with Big Booger McFarland's words, is that now that you have reinforced some people's already bad thinking. Now, with that, though, his words in particular to certain black athletes is not incorrect. Like, certain athletes in general, just do not value the opportunity that they have or the position that they're in a lot in the way that they probably should. Um, one being one being James Harden, and like for like I said, the strip club incident, like it's irresponsible. It's ever like if he like that whole world tour, any player in general that's out there doing that, that's probably being covered for right now, it's irresponsible. Like it's completely irresponsible to be doing those type of things at this time. Like what House did in the bubble, and what that Seattle player did on the practice squad, where he tried to sneak his girlfriend into the hotel room and all that. Like all that shit is irresponsible. Like it's like you're not valuing the opportunity that's happening right now.
Yo. Just to throw this out there for the Dwayne Haskins thing, because I didn't even think about this until I saw it on Undisputed, because I don't really be watching that much. But
Mm-hmm.
yo, man, Ron Rivera is 8 weeks off of cancer recovery, dog.
Right.
Like you can't like a lot of times the irresponsibility doesn't have an effect, and because it has no negative effect, people gloss over it. But that's the problem. It's like, but then when something serious happens, then it becomes a big deal. And it's like some people are taking this shit serious before the big deal happens, as we should. So like, yeah, the Dwayne Haskins shit, some people are just like, yo, what's the problem? You know what I'm saying? He went here, he did this, whatever. And it's like, yo, like if it ever came to it and there was some type of breakout on the team and it got to Ron Rivera, can you imagine? Can you like he would be he would probably be getting death threats. You know what I'm saying? So like him, what I'm saying is to these players, they need to put themselves first as far as taking care of themselves and taking care of you want to talk about brand. People care about brands and stuff, right? You know what's bad for your brand? Going, go getting your teammates sick, and the reason being behind that. Even if the reason ain't because even if you didn't catch it at the strip club, it's gonna look crazy if they know that you was just out here wilding, not wilding, but just going strip club hopping. They don't care if you was getting checked at the door. They don't care if everybody had fresh papers on them saying that they got COVID tests and all that stuff. People are just going to look at the behavior and say that it's irresponsible and they're going to have a problem with it. You know what I mean? So like that's what I
Exactly.
mean. If you care about yourself, you care about how much money you make, you care about your brand, you care about all that stuff, you care about your teammates. Be smart, do things smart. Like I have no problems with people doing some of these things, but like you said, the Dwayne Haskins shit is it's just a crazy situation.
Right.
Considering he obviously wasn't thinking about his coach's health.
No, he wasn't, and he
You know,
wasn't thinking about his coach himself. He wasn't thinking about all these all these other aspects of the game and what's going on. Like basically, he was stuck in his world and not being in anybody else's. And in the same way, like to a much lesser degree, and I want to put an emphasis to a lesser degree, the same way James Harden is. You know what I'm saying? Like that, like you're focused on your world without really taking into account how your world affects other people. And James Harden is not thinking about how his world affects the team and ownership, and Dwayne Haskins is not thinking about how his actions affects um other players and the coaches around him, or to a greater extent, the league, because we seen the breakout in Baltimore. Like, you know what I'm saying, where like the whole team practically had COVID. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we saw that. And like that's a very real thing. We seen what the irresponsibility of the Tennessee Titans, where they said fuck it and we're going to practice anyway, and then more people got COVID. Like these things is getting ridiculous. Like so
Yeah,
Uh,
I think that's also a bigger issue with both of these situations is these strip club situations. I do not think they would have been as big of a newsworthy item if it wasn't if we weren't living in this COVID situation.
oh no, absolutely not. Nobody gives a shit whether or
Yeah,
not James
so
Harden's in a strip
that's what
club outside of
and
COVID.
but like I said, but and that's my point. Like you everybody, the climate in this country when it comes to COVID, regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of if you have no political affiliation, people are getting hands put on them in grocery stores for not wearing a mask. People are getting hands put on them for telling people to put on a mask. You know what I'm saying? Like you know how people feel about the shit. So I just don't understand why you would move a certain way and then kind of be upset about the reaction. Who gives a fuck whether this shit's a fair assessment or a fair reaction? You knew prior to doing what you was doing that this was going to be the reaction. Don't act surprised.
Yep. So, uh, yeah, man. Um,
But
but so you get
I know
where
you were
we
talking about Booger. I know you were talking
no,
about Booger.
yeah, but just bringing it back to Harden very quickly. But you get where like I'm coming from when it comes to the Harden situation and stuff now, like with how these type of things just like nah, man, you're doing it to yourself a bit. So like I don't feel the same remorse
Yeah,
like
man.
for another play as I would for another player that's just minding his business.
Yeah, man. On a lighter note, here's an analogy for you. You know what I'm saying? You got your old lady and shit. You end up in a situation to where you end up at a boy's house party and somehow you end up in a room somewhere with another female. You can come back and say that you didn't do nothing and you didn't do nothing wrong and this and that. The point of the matter is you put yourself in that situation and anybody that speculates what happened behind those closed doors has the right to speculate at that point and then you just got to deal with the consequences, you know. Don't put yourself behind those closed doors with that young female. You won't have to worry about this shit. You know,
Yeah, man.
that's you know,
Yeah.
but yeah. So
Um, but yeah, with that, uh, where another area where I have a problem with what Booger McFarland said is like he talks about black athletes and like where he should have just said athletes in general because this is a
yes,
problem. This is a problem amongst famous athletes. Period. We've seen many times Ben Roethlisberger act irresponsibly, not just irresponsibly, but criminally. To be clear, like
yeah.
you know
I
what
was
I'm
gonna
saying?
say rapey, but if you want to say irresponsibly, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Like no, like let's just be clear, criminally, and somehow he's still walking the streets. Um, and then you see like Grayson Allen, like you know what I mean, like goon of the league, dog. You know what I'm
hey man,
saying? And
hey,
we
hey, Grayson really just on another like Grayson really don't give a fuck. How you gonna be like this in college playing for Coach K of all people, and then you like people literally downgraded you like as a person. Like not I mean not that you had a high draft stock, but they downgraded you because your personality issues. You get to the league and you say I'm still on the same bullshit, yo. Hey, say what you want about Grayson. That motherfucker keep it 100.
like all the way 100, man. Like yo,
like, yo,
how do y'all feel about the things that Grayson Allen like in his? How do y'all feel about Grayson Allen's antics, um, in the NBA, man? Like, do you think there's a place for him to be in the NBA?
I don't think he does it on purpose. I just think it's like a part of how he plays. Like he flails a lot, he sticks his leg out. Like his whole problem with like tripping people. Like I just feel like I don't think he's conscientiously out there trying to trip people or trying to hurt people, but it's just more like this is how he plays. Like he plays on edge. You know, he's not the most. He's pretty athletic, but he's not the most athletic guy. He's not the longest, most skilled guy. So he kind of like does have to find his niche in the league as kind of like the guy that's scrappy, the guy that gets on the floor, the guy that kind of like wrestles with you for rebounds or wrestles with you for loose balls. So if you saw like what happened with Trey, it was literally like a loose ball. He's just like kicking his legs out and then ends up kicking his man in the legs. So I wouldn't say like there's no place for it.
Why is he kicking his leg out?
Nah. Stop this shit, man.
That's how he plays.
I'm
like,
going to answer this question,
plays.
man. I got to answer this question, Mark, because this shit is really getting to me, dog. And you know how I feel about this shit, dog. Like I have a huge problem with I always had a problem with Bruce Bowen, guys like Bruce Bowen, guys like Draymond, because everything you just said is the shit that they were saying about Draymond at one point.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, all of a sudden Draymond ain't flailing this shit no more. It's like magic. But what I'm saying is this, man. I remember seeing here's just another point. I seen Steven Adams come into the league. I absolutely couldn't stand Steven Adams when he first came in the league, purely because he was playing dirty. You know what I'm saying? He was out there doing little elbows on the lower back, all the little shit. You know what I'm saying? And I thought he was just a goon. You know what I'm saying? 2 years later, after his rookie season, all of a sudden, he's still able to play physical. He's still able to go for loose balls. He's still able to do all the dirty work, and not do anything that could be considered shady. Dennis Rodman played his entire career being that guy. He literally is in what a lot of people's eyes, you know what I'm saying? He is a guy that might be considered, he's one of the greatest players of all time. Without scoring, you know what I'm saying? Purely based on doing all the dirty work, the scrappiness, the loose balls, all these things, man. And he was he never had a problem with accidentally tripping anybody. You know what I mean? Now this is, and I'll get deeper into this, because I think the issue is,
hold up,
I think there's a little hold on.
No, I just need you to fix. I just need you to answer something for me. Who was the player recently that, like the guy positioned himself under the player's foot? Thank you.
Are you talking about Hitman Pachulia?
Yeah, thank you.
No, hey, he stuck
like
he put pinky toe out like a sniper, dog. Hey, that shit was
he stuck his foot out and rolled the dude's ankle, and dude was done.
Why? Yep,
Okay. Now let me. Okay, now I just want to give some credence to what Bayo was saying, and here's what I'll say. This is the way that he plays. Some of this stuff is instinctual. I believe that too, and that's the problem that I have. See, I play ball too, Bayo. These guys get taught all the little tricks. You know, when you play an AAU ball at 12 years old, they tell you, hey, on the inbounds play, hold on to their jersey. You know what I'm saying? Just hold on to it with a couple of fingers like this. And if they move, then, it'll slow them down long enough for you to catch up. You know, hey, when somebody's going for that jump shot, you know what I'm saying? You either you could give them a snake bite on the elbow, but they'll blow the whistle on that. You know what I'm saying? What you can do is you can reach out, and all you need is a little fingertip to tap them on their midsection, and it'll throw their body off balance just enough for them to miss the shot, but it not be called a foul. These are things that get taught. These are things that get taught to these guys when they're a less skilled, scrappy guy that can do all the hustle stuff. They get trained up in this way at some level. You know what I'm saying? To some degree. The fact that your first reaction is to stick your leg out in a certain way, or to react for your body to flail in a certain way, to me is a problem on a deeper level, that these things were probably seen when you were younger and nobody cut them out of your game. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think it's just that they didn't get cut out of your game. I feel like at some point he was coached this way. You know? NBA coaches, NBA media is never going to go out and say that, people are being taught to play these ways at times. They're never going to say that. But that's what really happens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
there's a reason why multiple people do the same move, sticking a foot underneath a player when they go up for a shot. It's not an accident. They've been taught that way.
Just like all the Heat players were taught to flop. It's not an accident.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like this is part of the game in that way. So so to answer your question, you say, is there a place for him? For some NBA team out there is. They're looking for a guy like him. Okay? So yes, there will be a place for him. Do I believe that there should be a place? No. But yes, some of these situations where Grayson is accidental, some of them are intentional though. Some of them are a twitch reaction, and some of them are him in the heat of the moment doing these things. I don't think he's planning before the play to trip somebody, but I do think it's a heat of the moment situation, and that's his reaction.
Bayo, let me ask you this. Do you, given the person that it was in their history, do you feel as though this particular incident recently between him and Trae Young was it an accident?
No, I think it was because like if you remember in college, like they were like really on him about it, and it was like a big thing whenever he would trip somebody, and he just couldn't stop doing it because it was like a natural reaction. Like you would think if somebody's getting cooked and
it's just a natural reaction to fuck you up. I get it.
No, it's just like it's like when you're like if I'm falling, it might be my natural reaction to reach my arm out and grab somebody. Like
so he's just clumsy.
When he's jumping for something, he kicks his leg out. Like it literally it doesn't look like he's purposely doing it. Like
all he's doing is trying to create space by kicking you in the nuts. That's it.
Like he kicks his leg out. He kicks his leg out every single time when he jumps, and it just happened that Trae Young was there. So like, I mean, they could find him if they want. You find him however much money, but I don't think it's gonna stop. Like even with Shawn just brought up Draymond Green kicking his legs, and like when he used to kick people in the nuts. Like he doesn't kick people in the nuts anymore, but you'll see from time to time when he's looking for a foul, he'll kick his legs out. It's just nobody will be there. So it's like that's just a natural flail reaction.
Yeah, but and that's what I'm saying. You could tell the difference with Draymond. You could tell the difference between a natural leg kick out and a natural flail that just happens to be, the natural movement that happens when you're playing basketball, and you can tell the difference between that and what's deliberate. I just hate the fact that when the shit happens, people just say, "Oh, it's an accidental thing that happens all the time. All players flail," and it's like, no, man, this person's flailing looks a little bit suspicious, but we can't say that because it's something that naturally happens. You know what I'm saying? That's my problem. It's like, nah, man, if that shit looks suspicious, it looks suspicious, and don't try to wave me off of it just because yes, it is a natural thing that happens sometimes.
Well,
you know what I mean? Knows. All of a sudden he has a problem in history with Trae Young, and he hasn't tripped anybody in a while, and it just so happens to be in the game versus Trae Young that he gets tripped, that he has a tripping accident. You see what I'm saying? Like time it has to account for something. History has to count for something, man.
Yeah.
And let's say even if this shit was an accident, I can't feel bad for him. I can't feel bad for him because anybody with a brain and two eyes could easily fall into that conclusion. Whether it's right or wrong, you know what I'm saying? They might be right, they might be wrong. It doesn't matter at this point. He has too much of a history, and there's too much there for it to be ignored.
Yeah. Shawn knows I despise dirty players in all sports. Like, absolutely despise dirty fucking players. And Grayson Allen's dirty. Dirty as shit. Like, so I personally don't believe there's a place for him in the league, and I find just about everything he does to be purposeful. So with that, so back to the NFL and Booger McFarland. Well, more so, I guess, Dwayne Haskins. I guess my question to you is, do you feel what is going on with Dwayne Haskins is like him unable to deal with being pushed aside? Hold on a second. 1 second, because this cat is getting on my nerves. All right. back to it. What I was saying was, do you think Dwayne Haskins acting out and doing all the things that he's been doing has been him a sign of his inability to handle him being tossed aside by the team in the manner that he has been? Um, because we all know that he was drafted last year. Jay Gruden didn't want him. He was drafted to the team um, by either because ownership wanted him or because the GM at the time wanted him. Uh, and now the fast forward to, and nobody ever really supported him while he was there. We see that in him begging his offensive line to just to block for him last year when he was playing, and we see this year he was quickly tossed aside for Kyle Allen uh, when for by Ron Rivera only after what 1-2 games, and now even now to where he is now. So, and we see how quickly this team has moved on from a first overall draft pick, a high first overall draft pick. So essentially, I guess do you? I guess my question to you is: Do you think do you think Dwayne Haskins' actions are a product of the way he's being treated, or is the way he's being treated a product of his actions?
I think the way he's being treated is a product of his actions. Because if you remember when he first came into the league, he was like selling autographs. He was like trying to be a big star more so than focusing on the offense. Like I remember like early on in training camp, they were saying like he didn't know all the plays. He didn't really have a good grasp of like the offensive concepts and that type of stuff. So it seemed
Mm-hmm.
like coming in, he was more about being the star quarterback as opposed to being like the quarterback that's actually getting things done out there working with his teammates. So I think a lot of that has to do with that. And then he's playing for veteran coaches. Like Ron Rivera been around the way. So like if he comes in and he sees that you're not really looking to be great, you're not, going that extra mile, and he sees, Kyle Allen, who's somebody who's he's naturally more comfortable with because he coached in Carolina, or Alex Smith, somebody that's like a seasoned veteran, been in the league over a decade, you'll lean
Mm-hmm.
more towards that experience and that comfortability over this second year quarterback who doesn't really get a good grasp of the plays. His teammates don't really care for him. Like I remember the video of him like on the bench talking to his lineman, like kind of like help me, help you type stuff. So
Yeah,
I just think a
that's what I'm
lot of
talking.
that, yeah, a lot of that is really just based on him not coming in with that mentality to get better, kind of looking to be more of a superstar athlete than just like the good quarterback on the field.
Yeah.
Okay, uh, Shawn, what's your opinion?
Whew, I definitely think the way he's getting treated is well, this is what I'll say. His actions are his actions. I don't think his actions would have been any differently had he been you know had the situation been different, because last year he was the starter. You know what I mean? And his actions still, from what I understand from the people that I know in the Washington community that are Washington fans that have seen the things that the goings on and stuff like that that actually go to games, they say, I mean, he's been acting a certain way since he got drafted. So I'll say it's definitely the way he's getting treated is a product of his behaviors per se, not 100%, but because I feel like the way he's getting treated is a product of the way that the NFL moves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I say that is he was doomed from the start once he got drafted, and then the very next year they brought in a new coach. Um, everybody knows the most important relationship on any team offensively is the relationship between the head coach and the quarterback. And basically, if I if I'm a owner, let's say I'm a owner, but in a sense of, okay, instead of being an owner, I am a famous musician, and maybe I feel like a famous rapper. I'll go rap. I need a bodyguard. You know what I'm saying? I want to hire somebody for protection.
Mhm.
If I hire them for protection and then hand them my old bodyguard's pistol, it's only so long before he says, I'm gonna get rid of this pistol, get a new one. I want to use what I'm comfortable with and what I think is the right tool for the job. Now you can go make all kinds of modifications, add scopes, and do all this stuff to that one old pistol, but he's never ever going to feel comfortable with that. He's going to feel comfortable with whatever he chooses. So same thing with quarterbacks. You got an owner or a GM that has a coach, and you're asking that coach, "Hey, we need you to develop. We need you to put together this team." The quarterback is the leader. He is the main component of the team. You telling me you want me to be in charge of this lead? You want me to be in charge of this whole operation, but you're not letting me pick the leader. It's never going to work out. It's never going to work out that way. It never does. The coaches usually always get rid of the quarterback until they get a new one. Even if they think the new quarterback that they're getting is a backup, they would rather have somebody that is considered to be backup talent that understands the system and understands what they're trying to do than to have somebody that is considered to be first round talent that you're not on the same page with. That's it. And I didn't even consider Dwayne Haskins to be first round talent. So I knew that he was gone. So this is just this I mean, what he did was he accelerated the process with his
Mhm.
behavior. So he was gone regardless. He definitely accelerated the process though. Um Dwayne Haskins, here's something that I learned the other day that you guys might not be privy to, is apparently he went to school with Dan Snyder's son.
Yeah,
And
that was the
that
connection. I knew that.
that is the reason why he got drafted so highly, so high up. And we talked about this, Mark, with the relationship between the Eagles owner and JJ Arcega-Whiteside, who's somebody who should have been drafted very late, that ended up getting drafted earlier
Hmm.
than we thought he should have. And I believe 100% is because, he's trying to hook him up with money. You need that contract for that higher pick, right? We said that about him. I believe 100% this is the situation that happened in Washington. Seeing as though he had a prior relationship to Dwayne Haskins, and Dwayne Haskins also, being being that he went to Ohio State and he had success, it was like, look, man, I'm gonna take this guy because I thought Dwayne Haskins came out too early. I thought he should have stayed in college. I didn't think he was ready, and then he goes first round. I'm like, this is crazy. Somebody took him first round. I thought he should have been third or fourth round, but he got taken first round. And this is what happens. You get the owner, you get in the owner's, circle. He gets
Hmm.
drafted. At the end of the day, the coach is gonna have to do what he do. Dan Snyder is usually pretty active in situations like this, but you got to understand, Dan Snyder can't be active in anything because he's trying to hide out. So
Yeah.
I think that Dwayne Haskins would probably still have been the starter all year this year if Dan Snyder wasn't in all the hot water that he already was in. So
Mm.
it's really weird situation with Dwayne Haskins because I feel like he did a lot of things that probably would have put himself in this position. But I honestly feel like everything that was in play in Washington between Ron Rivera becoming the head coach, them bringing in Kyle Allen, with Ron Rivera, and then Daniel Snyder going through what he's going through, and Daniel
Hmm.
Snyder being the main reason why he was probably there in the first place. Man, he was doomed no matter what he would have done. It would have been, I think we would have been taught, like, if he would have came in here and played lights out and did everything right, we would have been having a totally different conversation because I think he still would have been leaving. Maybe he wouldn't get cut, but he would either be second or third on the depth chart, and he either that or he would have gotten traded. So
Yeah. Okay. Um. Fair enough. Now, see, I was going to have I did have a conversation prepared for why I may not feel as though maybe these actions are basically his way of acting out from the way he's being treated. But your guys' argument compels me to just go ahead and tuck that in my pocket and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
leave that to the side and not bring that up. So, um, so with that, we're going to move on to more pressing matters, which these are the like another situation in which these are the type of MFers that Booger McFarland is talking about. Uh, Mississippi State defeated Tulsa yesterday, but on the way on the way out, I guess they figured a W is just not enough to express our disdain for you because they decided to put hands and feet on Tulsa players uh, and created a massive brawl um, at the end of the game. And do we even know why that fight started? Like how or why? Like we still have no information as to how or why that fight started.
No.
That's
I
that's
wish
absolute.
I knew. Actually, to be honest with you, Mark, judging from the social media post that was put out there, by one of the players in his reaction to the whole thing,
Hmm.
uh, I honestly don't want the truth to come out because I'm going to almost bet that it's just all nefarious.
Yeah, I feel as though it's the pettiest, dumbest reason
Yes.
for a fight ever to happen. Ever. I really feel as though like the way that now what we're talking about is one of the Mississippi State players on his Twitter account, he decided uh Twitter or Instagram, he decided to live tweet or to have a story about him beating this guy up and kicking and punching him and all this other stuff. Like, what is like? You did something you weren't supposed to do. Like, like, what is the point of being proud of doing that? Like, now that's his name, Malik Heath. Uh, Malik Heath is the player in which we're talking about. That had that was on Twitter going on about the altercation that was blasted all over TV. Like, what what is up with some of these young players, man, that they don't know where they're at or they don't understand like the moment. Like this is a bowl game, dog. This isn't a high school football game on a this isn't Friday Night Lights. This is like this is national TV, and you decide to have a brawl, and then you decide to further incriminate yourself by being on Twitter all proud about it. Like somebody help me understand what this man was thinking.
It's just a generational thing to me. Like
Yes.
the younger generation just loves social media and the positive stuff that could come out of it. So like dude that you're speaking on is probably 20 years old, 19 years old or whatever. So he's seen people his age just get super popping on social media for doing stupid things, right? Like if you think about last decade, all of just the people that did dumb stuff that got millions of followers on Instagram. So now, excuse me, so now coming up, you're like, all right, I'm a good football player, probably won't make it to the NFL, but I have a huge platform. Let me get some clout on social media off beating somebody up. Or I know ESPN is going to cover this. It's the biggest story. If that hadn't happened, nobody would talk about the Tulsa Mississippi State game. It would be, a little quick 30-second highlight, and then they'll start talking about the actual games, the big games that are happening today. But due to that BS, it was like, oh, okay, now this is front page news. This guy's name is being said all over the media. He's getting tons of hits. I'm sure his follower count has jumped up. So what he wanted out of it, he got out of it. So that's the thing. It's just like these young kids or these younger people are just so focused on getting popping on social media, getting that extra clout, that those likes, those clicks, those comments that come from all of this weird stuff that you can do. So it's nothing new because people have always liked clout and attention. It's just you're able to get so much more now on Instagram because Instagram is worldwide. There's 100 million people on Instagram every month, as opposed to before, you're just doing dumb stuff to get on ESPN or to make your local paper, to make the national media. Now you're doing it to become like an international person. So that's all it really is to me.
Yeah, well, I guess my question to that would be, do these people not follow history at all? I mean, these guys are football players, and none of us have gone on to the college level of football, but we pay attention. And I could tell you what, if you planned on playing football outside of college and into the national stage, I could tell you what happened to Tyrann Mathieu for just smoking weed. Like he should have been a first to second round pick to being drafted in the 7th round.
I thought he should have been a top 10 pick, but that's just me.
Right, yeah.
He was to being drafted in the 7th round, and what he did was 2 years prior to him being drafted. He did that like a long time ago, and that followed him all the way to the draft. And then you have what LeGarrette Blount did on the bowl game, where he punched a player in the face and started that big ass brawl. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and we seen and these are like highly prolific players.
He had to take the long route,
right,
to becoming to getting to the NFL and becoming a starter. Like,
exactly. And now you, Malik Heath, like, sure, I know who you are now, but I know who you are for all the wrong reasons. But
that's what I'm saying. Like, think about all of the Instagram people that did dumb stuff that we know who they are strictly because they did dumb stuff. Like that's what they're looking. They're not looking for being known for the right thing. They just want to be known, whether it's for positive things or negative things.
Yes.
Because like I said, this person would never make the NFL. He's probably never going to be in the NFL. This is the height of his career, is playing in this college bowl game. So it's like, I'm about to go out with a bang. I'm gonna start a brawl, beat somebody up, get some clicks, get some followers. That's it.
Okay, so let me pop this. Let me jump in here. Then I like the points that you made, Bio. Those are some of the points that I was gonna make. It's a societal difference with the age, man. It's you gotta understand, these people are born into social media. They're the most famous people. Like, I have a 12-year-old, man. The most famous people to her are the people that are either famously on TV or famously on Instagram. She says she has a friend that is Instagram famous. You know what I'm saying? That has, like, she's like, yeah, she was telling me last year. She's like, yeah, this kid is 11 and she has like 10,000 followers on Instagram. They think it's an amazing feat to be able to pull that off. You know what I mean? In the same way that, back in our days, people didn't understand, and people still kind of don't understand, how growing up in certain neighborhoods, people can look up to drug dealers, or people can look up to these people that are doing illegal things for money. They just see it as like, these people have money and I don't, or these people have clout and I don't. These people have, when they go somewhere, everybody says hi to them. It's once they get that status, if people were trying to threaten them, try to fuck them up and do all these things, then that would deter them from doing these things. But it's like, in social media, like, you could, like, the perfect example is what's the name, for the old Cash Me Outside chick. Like, everything was painted negatively. People were laughing at her. And then somehow it just turned into a thing to where they were no longer laughing at her. It turned into, hey, even if people are laughing at you, guess what? If they see you on the street, they're going to be like, yo, I want to take a picture with that person. You
And
know what I'm
she's
saying?
rich. She had like a
Because they are
multi-million-dollar
known.
record deal.
Hey, look, I took a picture with a person that everybody knows. This is the thing about it. This is the thing about in our society, man. The way that popularity works is it doesn't matter it doesn't matter how you got popular. Once you are popular, everything turns positive. So everything can turn positive for you. And therefore, you know what I'm saying, there used to be a thing called being infamous. And it had a negative connotation to it. That doesn't exist in today's society anymore. So yes, you're gonna have players, especially if a player that has nothing to lose. Dog, I'm not getting drafted. I ain't got nothing to lose. What you talking about? I'm
Mhm.
about to show out. This is the highlight of my life, like you talking about. I'm about to show out. You know what? I'm about to just go live. He didn't think about this. This is not something that he thought of strategically, but it's those filters that would stop you from doing that don't exist because anything bad that could happen would be a good thing. So he's just like, yo, let me record this video. I'm having a good time with my friends. I'm gonna record myself having a good time with my friends. When I post
Exactly.
this, the other friends that I have on social media will enjoy this video. That's the extent that his thought process went. It, and then, of course, like I said, a normal person would filter that out and be like, yo, maybe I shouldn't do this because you know people are going to look at me a certain way, you know. But for them, it's like, yo, I have nothing to lose, and at the worst thing that can happen is everybody giving me shit for it. But that's a good thing because now I'm gonna have followers. I'm gonna have things. So the way they see it is the most negative thing that can happen is they get lemons and they turn it into lemonade. The formula already exists for lemonade. You know what I mean? So yes,
Yeah.
you're gonna. This is not gonna be the first, not gonna be the last. Definitely, you know what I'm saying? Like it just is what it is, man. People need to accept the fact that this is the way that social media has trained people to be, as far as athletes and people that have the opportunities to become famous. This is like one last note to get off this. Think about somebody like Spice Adams. He is an ex-player that I'm sure, like, I discovered him just looking at funny videos. Once I found out that he was an ex-player, it became even more intriguing for me as somebody that just likes to watch funny videos and comedians on Facebook. If Malik has this situation and 5 years down the road, somebody doesn't even know about this situation, and they come to find out, they watch one video of him and they say, hey, that's the same guy that did this. Guess what's going to happen? He just got a permanent follower just off of this incident right here. Sorry to say, that's the way society is these days. So as long as people will continue to idolize and look up to people that are social media famous, then this is going to continue happening.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Unfortunately. But that's all the attention I'm going to give to the college sports today because I've said before college sports shouldn't even be played right now because the players aren't being paid and they're putting their lives and body at risk. Uh,
That's not what Deion
so,
Sanders said.
hey, listen, that's a conversation that we
We
will
not
have.
today, not today.
Not today though. Not today because
Hey,
luckily, I mean,
man.
for a good thing, we've filled up so much space with good conversation already that I want to go ahead and get this last topic off and we can wrap it up.
Yeah.
Um, so football. This is week 17. We're we're ending out. It's over. Some teams feel as though that they don't got nothing to play for because they are solidified. It is what it is. Their standings are what they are. Now, this year being a year in which there's only one team allowed to have a bye week, um, and they're trying to basically squeeze out more playoff games. It essentially hurt their it essentially hurt their product because with only one team allowed to have a bye week, other teams that made the playoffs no longer feel the need to play for anything because there's nothing to play for. And one such team is the Steelers, in which they are starting probably the worst quarterback in the league, Mason Rudolph. And everybody has so much going on uh, to where they need basically everybody needs Cleveland to lose to whether or not they make the to figure out whether or not they make the playoffs. So, Shawn, this was your topic, so go ahead and go, friend.
Yeah, man. So here's the situation, man. You got the Rams starting a backup, you know, and they actually have a chance to get into the playoffs, you know,
Mm-hmm.
albeit not the best chance, but they have a chance. But I think what's more interesting to me is the Steelers situation where they're locked up. They're locked up. They're not getting a bye week. They really don't give a shit about anything else. Their position is solidified. And now you have a situation where the state, like you said, they're starting Mason Rudolph. And Mark, I know how you feel about Mason. I know how I feel about Mason.
He's
I know how
trash.
Steelers fans feel about Mason. Oh, we see an L coming. We see an L coming. We see Cleveland winning this game. I don't know if the defense can save them, and I see it just having this crazy cascade effect to where it's like, the Steelers are definitely keeping them out. The Steelers are effectively keeping the other teams out of the playoffs by doing this, um, indirectly. Um, the format definitely is a big point. Um, I understand why they were doing it. I understand what their idea is, and I'm gonna tell you this already. The format is already not making me happy. Considering what's happening now. Um, you think that Week 17 games were meaningless before?
Right.
This goes against everything that they were doing before by making Week 16 and Week 17 games divisional games. There's a reason why they did that. It's because people were not playing, or they weren't important games per se. So
Right.
now they're trying to make them important, but then this move makes it unimportant again. Um, I think they should change it. I think that at some point maybe it would take this happening on a larger scale for the NFL to actually do something about it. To be honest with you, because you have 5 teams essentially that will be okay. You have 5 teams in the AFC that are trying to get in. 3 of them will automatically be eliminated with a Cleveland win, and you just have 2 teams fighting over one spot, the Titans and the Colts. That completely takes my interest away from this. I don't like it at all. Um, man, I don't know what else to say other than by reducing the amount of bye weeks, you are ultimately taking all of the juice, a lot of the juice out of week 17, possibly week 16 as well. This year, luckily, there aren't as many teams on the bubble, especially in the NFC. So the effect isn't as bad as it could be in a normal season, but it's already bad enough for me this year. So
Yeah. Um. Bio, uh, you have your opinion.
Yeah, I kind of like like how it is, like because the final week you have so many, there are teams that control their own destiny. Like, all we got to do is win and get in. But then there are also teams that are like watching. So like if you look at like the Colts, or the Colts, Titans, the Browns, Ravens, Dolphins, all of those teams could essentially either get in or not get in, and they'll be 10-6, missing the playoffs with a 10-6 record. Like, I like seeing the best of the best get in. Now, it does kind of like get a little watered down when you go to the NFC, particularly with the NFC East. A team 7-9 or 6-10 getting in. But I do like the best of the best getting in, and then watching, for me as a fan, watching Week 17, not knowing who's going to get in, only knowing 2 or 3 of the playoff spots. So I understand what Shawn's saying in terms of every team not having a perfect shot and those bubble teams kind of having to rely on other teams. But like for me personally as a fan, like I like seeing stuff like that. Like I like seeing, it go down in the wire, it go down to the last game of the night, second to last game of the night to kind of be able to see who's in the playoffs. Like I'm not really a fan of it being week 15 and I'm like, all right, half the teams are out. I like seeing eight teams fight for 7 spots, 7 teams fight for 6 spots. So me personally, I don't mind it, but I understand why some people would have some issues with it.
Yeah. I guess I'll say real quick to that is I just think it upsets the balance, so to speak, in a way to where if let's say that you're the Chiefs, let's say you locked up first place, let's say in not the Chiefs, let's say you're Steelers this year, and let's say instead of them locking up their spot recently, let's say they locked up their spot and they wasn't able to get a bye week, and that happened in week 14. At that point, since there is no difference between being second or seventh, what is their motivation to play?
Well, your motivation, you get a home game. Like, I mean, this year home games don't matter because there's no crowd. But like next year, you'll get a home game first round. Like I want to play at home as opposed to going to Tennessee for my game. I'd rather be Pittsburgh and stay at home. So that's the only incentive.
But essentially, you have the extra position because there's 6 teams playing in the wild card round. So you could be the third best out of the 6 and still get a home game because they're letting in that 7th team that probably is going to get in with the losing record or an 8-8 record. That's what I'm saying. It's like slightly. It's not. There's still something there. I just feel like it's slightly watered down by sneaking the extra team in there and then reducing the bye.
So I think in the future it for sure will. I'm just saying this specific year, when you look at all of the teams in the NFC, I mean in the AFC at least being 10-6, like you're gonna have a quality opponent regardless.
Yes.
Like
this year it's working out. This year I say this year is working out because I don't care. Whoever gets in is gonna ball. Like in the AFC, whoever gets in is gonna ball and is gonna be a threat to any of the higher seed teams. To be honest with you, right. But yeah, like I said, it's just a weird thing seeing a team that is essentially needed to either win or lose going against a team that doesn't care if they win or lose. So hopefully NFL does a smart thing and they just move the game to Sunday night. Because that way we don't already know what's happening, because it really sucks if they play Sunday morning and then all of a sudden the rest of the games don't matter for the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say strictly when it comes to this particular case, like the flip side of what could go wrong far outweighs like
the upside.
Everything, the upside. Because in this particular case with the Steelers, Cleveland losing essentially, I mean, Cleveland winning essentially makes every other game not matter at all. So, and that's unfortunate. Whereas, if there were still 2 bye weeks, Steelers would have a reason to play today.
But, so, well, here's a better way of putting it. Then, the game that essentially controls everything is a non-watchable game. That's where the issue lies. Yeah. Nobody wants to watch the Steelers play Cleveland with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. So you have the possibility of an unwatchable game causing other games to be unwatchable. And if I was the NFL, I would have a problem with that.
Yeah. Well, I personally don't think anything should change to the formatting of the playoff series. I think it was perfect the way it was because it added a lot of gravity to the situation. More playoff games isn't the answer. Like, if more than half the teams are in the playoffs, then what's the point of playoffs? Like, you just might as well just keep the regular season going.
Well, it's 14 out of 30, so they're almost at half. But what I'll say is this.
It's 14 out of 32.
I've seen 8 seeds. Huh? Or
14
excuse
out
me,
of
my
32.
bad, my bad. 32, my bad. I'm thinking NBA. No, but either way, what I'll say is this: like previously in a wild card round, you could have an eighth seed going against a third seed,
Mhm.
or excuse me, not eighth seed, excuse me, sixth seed going against the third seed, and sometimes that matchup, you not sometimes. There's been plenty of times where you see that matchup and you're like, well, I don't know about this, or sometimes somebody surprises you from that sixth seed, right? The thing I see now is that my question to you guys is: do you see a seventh seed upsetting a two seed?
Um, in football, it can happen,
Not just
but
for
only in
this
football.
year, not just for this year, but do you see that continuing, that bottom team coming into the wild card, the bottom of the wild card? Do you see that continuing to be an intriguing matchup going forward if they're going to be the seventh seed versus the two seed?
It'd have to be a team that like got hot at the end of the season. So maybe like a team that had injuries the first half and then got hot, but usually not. But it's like a wild card team like going to the Super Bowl. Like it's something that rarely happens, but it just sometimes it's the dice rolls perfectly that to get to that point. But yeah, I think maybe this year can happen for sure. So like Cleveland's really good. Indianapolis is decent, but I don't look at Buffalo as this unbeatable team, just in my opinion. So I can see it happening this year, but going forward, probably not. It'll
Yeah,
just be
it's
an extension of good butt whipping. It wouldn't be close.
yeah. Most cases it wouldn't be
Yeah,
close, but in football, there's always, what I mean, any given Sunday every year. So
yeah. If I see seven seeds taking out two seeds, dog, I will retract everything I said to be like, yo, this is
well,
this is this is dope. Like, so it does have the
well,
potential to
you
be dope as
you
fuck.
you'll see it. It's not going to happen often. I would I wouldn't say it's not going to be so uncommon either. I would put it around 60-40,
Okay,
maybe 65-35.
okay, okay, that's good.
So,
Hmm.
and that's strictly because it's football, one and done. Like if there was any type of series formatting to it, then absolutely not. But because it's one and done, anything can happen. So,
Well, all right.
I mean, shit, we watched the Giants win two Super Bowls, being 9-7. So,
Whew. Yeah, but that's 9-7, getting hot, winning five straight to get into the playoffs at the end. We're talking about a team could get semi hot at the end and sneak in the seventh spot.
yeah. All right.
So I
So,
think it's just be a little bit harder for them. But yeah, I'm done. Go ahead.
yeah. All right. So with that last bit, give me you guys' playoff speculations, man. For the NFL. Just who do you see making it to make it quicker? Who do you see being in the Super Bowl and why? Bio.
I think the Chiefs out the AFC make it. I just think Mahomes. I feel like he's about to like sort of how like Brady did recently, just start running them off. They just have like their offense is too quick. So like we saw last year, like how they start out slow. You could be up 21-28, and then you look up three possessions they've scored in 5 minutes or so. Like they score so fast that they're never out of the game. So like they have that type of confidence. That gives your defense hella confidence. It's like, all right, we're getting beat up on right now, but once Pat Mahomes gets going, all we have to do is get 1-3 and out, and then all of a sudden we're back in the game and the pressure's on the other team. So I think I for sure have Kansas City going, and then out the NFC, I like Green Bay a lot, but they just lost their tackle. They lost their Pro Bowl tackle,
Mm-hmm.
and Aaron Rodgers isn't. As he gets older, you just want to try to protect him as much. So I'll probably go with the Saints. I think Drew Brees will knock some of that rust off. Their defense is elite. Like I never seen Pat Mahomes get hit as much as they hit him. Alvin Kamara is probably the second, third best running back in the game. They have too many weapons on the outside, so I'll go Kansas City in the AFC, and then the Saints in the NFC.
Okay. Shawn.
Okay. I'm gonna start off with the NFC. I'm gonna go ahead and say the Packers coming out of the NFC. Usually the situation with the Packers is they can't get going because they can never win in the playoffs because of their defense. Um, this is a scenario to where if they were to lose to anybody, it would have to be the Saints because the Saints offensively, although I think they're not what they should be, they have shown recently this past week that if they actually commit to running Alvin Kamara, actually commit to running him X amount of times a game instead of running him 10 times, run him 20, run him 25, they would definitely have a chance to take out the Packers. This is something that I could see happening maybe, but I just feel like the Saints, Sean Payton, that's not what he's there to do. He's not there to run the ball 25 times with Alvin Kamara. So I just feel like the Saints, with Drew Brees and his injury and other stuff, I just don't think he's ready to challenge anybody score for score. And when I look at the rest of the NFC, I see a bunch of dysfunctional teams. The Seahawks are right now holding that 3 spot. I don't even know who the hell they are right now. They're still better
No,
than
they're the Seahawks. They're the Seahawks.
They're still better.
Seahawks.
They are sneakily still better than what people. The fall off isn't as great as people thought it was. They're still pretty sneakily good. Their defense has been better since they started running the ball, but their offense looks crazy, just like not there. But so they're gonna sneak. They're still gonna be sneaky. But outside of that, I mean, can you trust the Bucks? I don't trust the Rams. Washington has a good enough defense to do something, but I don't think the offense is there. Like everybody else has too many issues. Okay, so therefore I have the Packers coming out of that just because usually they will be challenged by somebody that can produce offense, and everybody else on this list underneath them cannot produce offense except for the Bucks, and they do it once every 4 games. So, so with that said, I go to the AFC. The Chiefs, obviously, I think that's going to be the AFC championship matchup is going to be Chiefs Bills. As much as I'd like to say the Bills would come out of this, I don't know if they have enough defensively. Mark, I just can't bet against Patrick Mahomes. I can't. Right. It would have to be some type of coaching deficiency, coaching kerfuffle or something from Andy Reid. Like Andy Reid would have to go back to being the Andy Reid of old and do something dumb, time management wise or coaching wise, for this shit not to work. It's a possibility. I just don't think it's gonna happen. Which is saying a lot, Mark. I'm telling you, I trust Andy Reid's coaching as being the difference maker for the Chiefs. His decision making. But the Bills right now, I think the Bills are better than every team that exists in the NFC by a long shot. I'm gonna use this moment just to, I'm gonna use this moment just to say this. Like the Bills, like I said, they adjust to whatever their opponents are doing, so they have a chance. But right now, I'm going Chiefs, Packers.
All right, Chiefs and Packers. Okay. For me, I don't want to go against you guys with Green Bay because I feel as though Green Bay is the favorite. But
he said the Saints.
Oh, yeah, you said the Saints. Well, I feel as though Green Bay.
Saints.
Yeah, I feel as though Green Bay is the favorite because, just to answer you about that, if it was to come down to Green Bay and the Saints, Drew Brees just does not have the arm to stretch the field the way that he would need to if against Aaron Rodgers, if it was to become a shootout. And when it comes to the Bucks, Green Bay is the favorite because basically the Bucks defense is basically on offense and defense. You don't know what you're necessarily getting with the Bucks. But with that being said, I feel as though the Bucks are sandbagging a little bit, and I feel as though particularly Brady's play will come alive in the playoffs, and we'll see a lot more consistency out of him. I don't know what we'll see out of the defense, but we will see more consistency out of Tom Brady come playoff time. That is my belief. So I put them as the dark horse for the Super Bowl in that situation. And AFC, look, man, I will never, ever, ever go against Patrick Mahomes and Tyrann Mathieu. Like Tyrann Mathieu is my favorite player in the NFL. I love safety play, and Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL today. And what he's put together in his first 3 seasons is better than what we have seen out of any quarterback in any season ever. So, like, and I'm not just talking statistically, I'm talking about what you see on the field is better than what you've ever seen from any quarterback ever.
Seen
So,
Patrick Mahomes have a bad game this year where they said he played absolutely horrible. He ended the game with 300 plus yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick.
exactly.
I don't
So,
know what to
like,
say.
exactly. So, like, you, like, his first 3 seasons is better than any quarterback has ever played, ever. Like, somebody may have had better stats, but what you saw on the field was just not what he does on the field. Um, so yeah, man, gonna wrap this one up with that. Um, thank you, fellas. I appreciate it, Bio, the new perspective, your perspective. It was fun hearing from you, seeing your face actually pause. You know what I mean? Uh, but um, it was it was good, man. Good getting a different perspective. Because as a tendency, me and Shawn, we disagree, but we always tend to end up at the same point. But so it's nice getting somebody perspective that is like further from our perspective. So, um, yeah, man, appreciate it. And to everybody out there, link, like, subscribe. Same shit as always. Um, let's put us in your favorites so you can catch us whenever we put out a new episode. And we appreciate all the listeners out there, man. And so, y'all got anything to say on a closeout?
Nah, just thanks for having me. It was dope. It was fun. A lot. It was cool. A lot more fun than I expected. So I appreciate it.
I
Yeah,
appreciate. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
yeah.
It's Shawn.
Appreciate you being here, man.
Nah. So,
Um,
anything else, Shawn?
yeah, man. Obviously, next episode we can talk about this logo behind me and exactly
Yeah,
why I'm so getting a little bit excited about the future of basketball.
yeah. We'll get that next episode. We will be having Ricky on if you want to join us for that. That is cool as well. That'll be on Tuesday. Uh, we will have that conversation, and we will have that quarterback conversation that we were not able to get to today. Um, so I'm gonna close it out. Let's say everybody, thank you. If you fuck with us, we fuck with y'all. Peace.